That's all right. Yeah, it's not that easy. I think you gotta turn it. Yeah, no,
Do you
it's
want
all
to go to the bathroom and I'll sit at the time? And then you won't be the one that did it?
right. That's fine. That's fine.
I will. No, I think you're going the wrong way.
I think. That's all right. Not that I'm sensitive about that. Yeah, this isn't doing any good. Yeah, but we have more height to work.
You guys have a chance to look at the meeting, in the minutes? Any problem with those?
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. I think that's good.
Dick, any question on the minutes? The minutes? No? Minutes? Okay. Any question on the minutes? Can I have your attention, please? I'd like to call the meeting to order. And welcome to the Lowell Planning Board for March 5th, 2018. Tonight we have two public hearings. And the first matter on the agenda is the minutes for February 5th, 2018. Any board members have any corrections on the minutes for 2005? I mean February 5th, 2018, excuse me.
I move approval.
Motion's made, second by Mr. Snetsky. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those who approve. Next matter on the agenda is the approval of the February 22nd meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Motion made and second by Mr. Guys. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Vote yes, those are approved. So tonight we have two matters on, one being the 650 Merrimack Street, and another one being 26 Market Street. Can I just have a show of hands of how many people are here for 650 Merrimack Street? Okay. How many people are here for 26 Market Street? Okay. I'm going to entertain the Market Street project first then. Hopefully get that one. Matter won't take quite as long a period of time. So can we hear for the applicant for 26 Market Street? You're up.
How you doing?
Good evening. State your name and address for the record, please, and go for it.
My home address?
Yep.
My name's Chris Brennan. My home address is 382 Central Street, Saugus.
Okay.
How you doing? My name's Ray Pickup. My home address is 9 Ridgewood Terrace, Rockport, Massachusetts.
Okay. And just state your proposal, please.
We're proposing to open an office, a satellite office for the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades to deal with the Merrimack Valley and the workforce and our constituents up here.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the size of the office and what will be there?
It'll be a satellite office, basically handling, myself and my partner Ray here, we're business agents with the union, and we are also the president and secretary of the Merrimack Valley Building Trades. And the office is roughly 1,150 square feet. Everyday business.
So this is located right over that Wings Restaurant upstairs?
Right next to it.
Yep.
We share the vestibule with them.
Okay, so you upstairs from there?
No, we're right on the,
On the same
to
floor?
to the right, yep.
To the right, okay, that's fine, okay, all right. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add to the project? On behalf of it?
Not much more than what I put on there, sir, if you had any questions, though.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
That's it?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Does anybody here this evening want to speak in favor of this project? In favor? Yes. Come to the microphone, please, sir, and just state your name and address.
My name is David Silverstein, and I live at 17 Fraymar Road in Wellesley, Massachusetts. I'm the landlord, the owner of the building, and we're very much in support of this tenant. We've had other restaurant-type tenants on the first floor there, and I think this would be a nice mix of the use of the space that would not impact a lot of the residential spaces surrounding the office there. We've had a lot of late-night issues. We're happy to have the other tenants in the building, but I think the burden on that neighborhood in the evening and into the night is pretty severe, and another tenant of that type would only exacerbate that, and the type of these folks bringing professional tradespeople down into the downtown to interact in the downtown and use the other businesses and restaurants that are there would only benefit the city.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in favor of the project? In favor? In favor? Favor? Hearing none at that point in time. Anybody in opposition? Anybody in opposition? In opposition? Hearing none. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to the board members, see if they have any questions. Any of the board members have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yeah, Mr. Fischett?
I may, gentlemen, did you see the memo dated February 28th from Patrick Burns?
We did, yeah.
Just a question regarding the, because obviously this is retail space that, when you're walking on the sidewalk, you're able to see. So what exactly is that going to look like? I mean, I envision a card table with folding chairs and you're waiting for people to come in. So what is that going to look like when people are
Well,
on the street level?
on the street level, we're gonna have blinds, obviously. We're waiting for the owner, the gentleman just spoke, he's gonna replace some of the wood. We're gonna paint the whole front of it, including the vestibule, and there'll be signs that sticker signs, once we get approval from the board from here. And also, there's 2 existing signs above the storefront that we'll be also putting signs on. We'll replace them with similar ones.
And what's going to be the nature of the business? I mean, again, part of it is promoting people coming into the downtown. How are they going to interact with what you're offering here? Just so I have some idea of, it appears to be a relatively low-impact use, but I just want to get a better idea from you as to how this is going to operate.
Well, as I stated before, me and Ray represent quite a few members up in this area, not just Lowell, but roughly almost 200 members live in Lowell and the surrounding towns. We also have quite a bit of work being done at the university and among other places, the courthouse. We got several large projects up in this area, and we're up here a lot. We handle a lot of business, not just in Lowell, but in Billerica, Dracut, and the surrounding towns. And it's going to be pretty much everyday use. It's going to be open 5 days a week from roughly 8:30 to around 3. We will be doing night hours twice a month if the board finds that we can do that. We will be open for till about 7:30 or 8 for constituency purposes, meaning our membership who live in the area. Our main office is in downtown Boston. And we're trying to just have a satellite up in this vicinity. We have one in New Bedford, we also have one in Springfield, and we have one in Brentwood, New Hampshire, and Kittery, Maine as well. So we handle all 4 states, so this would kind of be the North Shore, we're hoping to be the North Shore Merrimack Valley business.
Now, have you reached out, you mentioned the tech school, I'm assuming the Greater Lowell Technical Regional High School is what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Have you reached out to them?
I have. I had a meeting with them on Friday. Myself and Joe Grenham met with Joe Mastrocola and Ray Booton.
Yep.
And we're looking, they have a great painting program going on over there, so we're looking to kind of set up something where we can channel kids coming from their painting program into our union.
Now, you also interact with Shawsheen, or is that out of your area?
No, it's in our area, but at this time, we don't. But we plan on it. We plan on doing it with Shawsheen. We plan on doing it with Whittier. That's kind of, down the road, how we envision the office working better for us, instead of having people to come all the way into Boston, that we have an office right up there.
And it just, why would membership go into that office? I'm just trying to get a better idea as to.
Why would our membership go into office?
The use.
Just to come in and sign in if there's layoffs, or to see what's going on, where the business grievances, different kinds of stuff. You wanna say something?
Yeah, I'll speak on that. So, we obviously handle more than just putting people to work. We handle grievances. Like Chris said, we handle layoffs, whether someone wants a training schedule for upcoming training at the Union Hall or in Brentwood. We have discussed potentially doing a CPR or a first aid class at the office if it's, applicable. members can come in and pay dues, whether they want to pick up a copy of their contract, their constitution, stickers. Sometimes, guys just want to stop in for business cards, or a lot of time people just want to stop in and see what's going on, as far as work and just updates in the industry.
And right now, for a member, they would have to either go to Bedford or Boston, is that correct? Or is there
New
someplace-
Bedford, Boston,
Bedford, I'm sorry.
Brentwood, or Springfield, or Kittery, Maine.
Okay, all right,
So, yeah.
good, all right, thank you.
Any of the board members have any further
I
questions?
just have
Yeah.
one
Mr.
quick-
Malovich?
Have you been dealing with the historic board, Steve Stoll, about the exterior?
We haven't yet. It's my understanding this is the first step in that process, so
Okay.
it's not open for business yet. We're still trying to get the approval from the
All
town.
right. That's the only thing you really need to do, is because, they have jurisdiction over what the exterior is going to be.
That's correct, yeah, we understand that.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Malovich.
Chairman.
Mr. Snetsky?
Approximately how much traffic a day? How many people are you expecting to come through on a daily basis, on average?
I honestly couldn't tell you, sir. It's gonna take time to get the word out, certainly, myself and Ray will be in there a lot, and at times a secretary, as we deem necessary. We have a full staff in Boston, and they've committed to release one to us, and then if need be, we would hire a full-time up in that area.
But we're not, we're probably talking, 20, 30 people a day, not 100 or 200
I would say,
people a day.
at the most, right away, you're looking at 25 to 30, yeah. That would be a
Okay.
good ballpark.
I see no negative impact of that. That's the only question I had. Thanks.
Mr. Guys, any questions?
I have no questions or comments at this time.
Thank you. The only comment I have, any signs that you have to do downtown, they have to be approved by the Historic Sign Board,
Yep.
so you have to go through them, which usually isn't a problem. Just,
I have the application
sure, no problem. So,
as soon as, hopefully, things go well here tonight.
no problem, okay. Thank you. So, so this requires a special permit. So what's the request of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the special permit, and as a condition, reiterating that the applicant meet with the Historic Board regarding any exterior signage or renovation.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion is made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes, so your motion carries, 5 in favor, 9 against, so you approve. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, the next matter is a site plan review and special permit for 585, 591, 605, 609.1, 619, 629, 639 Market Street, 616, 628, 636, 646, 650, 666 Merrimack Street, and 23 Cabot Street. An application was submitted by George Theodoro Esquire on behalf of the Union Lowell LLC seeking site plan review and special permit at the above address. The applicant proposes to construct a 163-unit private developed and operated dormitory. The proposed project is located in the urban mixed-use zoning district. The project requires site plan review, approval under section 11.4 and 7.8, and special permit under Article 12, Table of Uses from the Planning Board, and any other relief required by the City of Lowell zoning ordinance. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, George Theodoro, 133 Market Street, representing the applicant, the Union LLC. With me tonight is the architect, Mr. Steve Simonelli, the civil engineer.
Excuse me, Councilman?
Before you begin, I'd just like to say that it's come to my attention that I may have a conflict in this matter, so I'll be excusing myself from voting or the proceedings tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, just to the fact that we only have 4 members now, and you do need 4 members for the special permit, I don't know if you want to go forward, or if you want to continue until we have 5 board members here. I'll give you the option to request whatever you like.
Yeah, we were advised of that earlier, and we had decided that we will proceed and go
Okay.
forward tonight.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Sure. All right.
And also here on behalf of the applicant is Mr. William Fidelli and Dan Thorne, as well as the Development Legal Advisor, Howard Levin. This project has been in the making for some time, since last winter. At least that was the time, last February, when we walked the site and met with DPD, and we had one of our filings was done, and through this whole process, we listened to the feedback of the city staff, of the neighborhood constituents, and also the interests of the property owner, the Jeanne d'Arc Credit Union. And as a result of that, the project went through some major architectural and engineering redesign. Now, the site itself is, it's described as 57,000 square feet, approximately 1.3 acres. It was the former site of the original, of the branch of the Jeanne d'Arc Credit Union. And the buildings that consist there right now were the branch building plus another office building. And through the process, the credit union assembled parcels in the area to clean up the neighborhood, to square out the dimensions of this lot so that they could more efficiently market their property. Those properties will be raised, and on the site will be constructed a private dormitory consisting of 162 units. Now, we have redesigned the parking, whereas the first application we had 93 spaces of parking consistent of 1 floor. We listened to the community, we listened to the staff, the planning department, and also this board. And we have constructed, in our current design, has a second level of parking, where we have a total of 188 spaces on the site. This parking more than doubled the parking spaces on the site, and as well as what we did was we increased the bicycle storage, bicycle sharing, and car sharing amenities in there as a means of offering that to the residents, which is part of the multimodal philosophy that we're using with this site, where students will be able to share cars. We haven't decided what company we would use, but share cars on the site to go to and from school or to use it for their own purposes. As a result of that, we were able to redesign the loading areas for the property, and we have 3 loading areas on site right now, which is what the zoning requires. One of the major innovations that we had was trying to incorporate this property and the use of the property with the neighborhood. And by doing so, what we did is we went out and reached out to the neighborhood organizations and the groups, and we added a collaborative art space and gallery on Market Street. One of the main criticisms that we had before, that Market Street and that area along Market Street was going to be just a brick facade of the parking garage in the building, and that would not offer anything as far as any aesthetic value at all. So what we did is try to incorporate the community by making a collaborative art studio on the corner of Market and Cabot Street, and to offer areas within that whole strip of Market Street to display the art. And part of what that does, it will support the artists in the community. So the artists in the community could have the studio, display the art, and we believe that that was an important innovation with this project, to incorporate the residents into this building, into the community. And part of what we had talked about earlier with one of the neighborhood organizers, Dave Willett, was Decatur Way was going to be an area there where art would be displayed on the street there. But what we've done is we've taken that concept and we've put it into our building, which we think is a very effective way to use it and to work with the local artists. We also reached out to Gary Wallace of the Lowell Housing Authority. We entered into a memo of understanding, which we had filed and provided a copy. And the memo of understanding is for us to go ahead and hire locally and provide, to give a preference to the residents of the Lowell Housing Authority for employment that we can offer, and to support the Lowell Housing Authority by offering and donating a minimum of 400 square feet of retail space, which can be used for retail, light manufacturing, which is part of the innovative response that we have incorporated in here for the smart growth study by the City of Lowell. By doing so, what we've done is we've contributed to that study, and we've taken the lessons from that study and incorporated it into this project by doing so. And part of that is going to foster some private growth and development among the residents of the Lowell Housing Authority. Now, one part that you'll hear further on about the sticking points of trying to develop this property were that the owner, the credit union, the Jeanne d'Arc Credit Union, they had some opportunities for some type of retail that really didn't fit in the community. And that by doing this here and by incorporating these measures in here, we think that this will fit very well in the community. And by doing so, we believe that we will comply with the site plan review requirements as well as those provisions of the special permit which are needed for us for use. The impact on the community, the contribution to the community, which are all displayed and laid out in the narrative that I have filed. A major portion of this with the special permit is how this property and the development of this property adapts to the master plan. The city's master plan talks about the development of student housing along the Merrimack Street corridor. And that was said a long time ago about how we were going to develop student housing in the Merrimack Street corridor and how it would be important to have that for the city of Lowell to be to contribute and to be a college town and contribute to that. Also to establish an area that would connect the university with the downtown. And by placing this private dormitory here at this site on Merrimack Street, about 650 Merrimack Street, which incorporates Merrimack on one side, Cabot on the other, and Market on the other, we're just a 5-minute walk from the university center on Pawtucket Street, and we're just a few minutes walk the other way on Merrimack Street to downtown. So it effectively, we believe, accomplishes that with the city's master plan, and also allows us to, develop something that is urban in nature, an urban development to develop this empty lot, to develop this site with this development, and to incorporate some other innovative multimodal methods of transportation, which are done. Part of this you're going to hear from the site architect and the engineer about the improvements that we'll be making for the bike travel lane, and that again goes into the shared storage of the bicycles as well as the use of the shared parking. A major portion of this also adds to the economic development of the city. What we're doing here by developing this lot is we're adding 466 students. A catalyst to this neighborhood to allow for disposable income to be used, a catalyst for other businesses. And part of that is our project in which we have incorporated approximately 3,000 square feet of commercial retail space on Market Street, as well as the commercial artist collaborative on the corner of Cabot and on Merrimack Street on the corner of, and the Artist Collaborative on the corner of Market and Cabot Street. We have supplied the board with a study that we had commissioned and paid for that talks about a need for student housing. Students are looking for better housing options, and a third of the students, only 1/3 of the students can be housed by the university. Students will be attracted to this project where each of these students will have the amenities of their own bathroom, their own room, private rooms, and walkability to campus. These features here will be attractive not only for the student, but to attend the university. And having this high-quality dormitory so close to the university crossing, the center of the university, as they can connect to anywhere they want on campus from there. In total, when we consider this project about what it can contribute to the city, we are not displacing any residents, which is a component of 7.8, by the encouraging the development of student dormitories, which again is the component of 7.8, which was incorporated into the zoning ordinance in 2009. And here we have our dormitory being proposed before you in 2018. What we do is we encourage the economic impact of the students in the community without displacing residents who are non-students. This is a major component, and this is in the first paragraph of 7.8, and that's what this project will accomplish. And finally, the total economic impact that we would have with this project, in our estimation, is $25 million over the next 10 years. In permit fees alone, in constructing the project would be $500,000. Approximately $250,000 a year in tax revenue over the course of 10 years would be $30 million. What we are not doing is we are not taking properties off the tax rolls. We are contributing to that. So what I would like to do right now is to have Mr. Robert Clark come up, or Mr. Steve Simonelli. Thank you.
Can I just ask, who's ever going to speak tonight, just use the sign-in sheet that's there and give us your address, please? Thank you very much.
I'm Steve Simonelli with J. Davis Architects. Myself and my firm, we specialize in designing state-of-the-art student housing. I'd like to introduce some of the features of the project and highlight them for you. We feel that this project fits harmoniously into the architecture of Lowell and complements the streetscape and the interaction with the neighborhood. It's designed for urban infill. It's pedestrian focused and promotes heavy foot traffic and reducing vehicular traffic due to the proximity of the UMass Lowell services right nearby. We feel that students prefer to live in a student-oriented community, and ours in particular would offer a lot of great features for students. To highlight them, it would be a private room and bathroom, which is a strong feature that students are attracted to. Ample common space to promote community and offer more additional space beyond their own room. Walkability to campus and stores in the community. Facilities for students-oriented social and learning programming. Attractive amenities on site, including outdoor space. These features are typically not found in most off-campus housing, especially not those run privately throughout the community. To focus now on specific changes that happened in a redesign, we've added a new entrance on the corner of Cabot and Market. We feel that this helps interact with the community, foot traffic for the students, no matter where they're headed to in town. It helps with that interaction there. We've added significant amount of retail space on Merrimack Street. We hope to see some sort of local business. A coffee shop is not really in that neighborhood. Perhaps that would be a great fit there. We hope to see that grow and help support the community for both students and the neighbors alike. As you know, we've added additional spaces on a second level of parking. With that parking, we've added car share, which would help reduce the amount of traffic. Students wouldn't feel the need to have cars if they have access to them. Having firsthand experience, it's a great option to have when you're living in an urban condition. I know that lighting is always a concern, and we feel the same. So ample street lighting that would both complement and reflect some safety while highlighting the building and adding to the streetscape of all of our surrounding streets from Merrimack, Cabot, and Market would be included. We'd have street posts that would match with the aesthetic of the city, as well as building lighting that would reflect well. And with our addition of our art spaces, those would be well lit and glowing in a comfortable and attractive way to walk down Market Street as for any passerby. To further add to that, our collaboration space, we are happy to be able to fit that into the project. It was difficult with our topography, but that was a great benefit that we feel adds to the traffic on Market Street, giving some space for the community. We hope that this would be a thriving art space to be used as they see fit. That art would be displayed in art niches and larger windows along the Market Street facade. So based on my personal and my firm's personal experience, specializing in student housing, students will be attracted to live in this product like this one because of it's designed around needs and preferences of today's student population while fitting into the aesthetic surroundings of the community. We hope you agree.
So do we have a lighting plan?
A lighting plan?
Yeah.
We have not been requested to submit one. It's not required, but it would be meeting with the needs of the city.
Excuse me, it's not required? It says here in the special permit requirement that we should have one. Does the project minimize lighting glare on abutting properties? And then on the site plan, request a lighting plan so we know what it looks like.
We would certainly meet with all requirements so that there is no glare and would meet with all the requirements for the city. That's who goes out saying.
So we don't have a lighting plan? Is that the answer?
We'll provide whatever lighting plan that DPD requires.
Well, for the special permit, I think it's up to the planning board. It says it here for a lighting plan. Does the lighting plan minimize abutting properties and environmental issues? 11.3, C11. So we have no lighting plan, okay.
So we can, for the record, my name is Bob Clark from Allen & Major. We can submit a photometric plan. All of our lighting will be dark sky compliant, zero shut off at the property line. Any lights will be shielded so that everything's directed down and does not glare over the property line. So we can actually produce a photometric plan that incorporates the architect as well as any site lighting.
Okay. So we don't have a lighting plan, okay?
No.
As requested by the special permit you're requesting, okay?
So the applicant has a parking solution that's been revised.
Could you just state your name and address, please?
Yeah, it's Bob Clark from Allen & Major Associates, 100 Commerce Way,
Yep.
Woburn, Mass. So we have a new parking solution. We've added a second bay, and there's now 188 parking spaces on site. We've also worked out an agreement with the city, and the city will supply 50 new spaces to be used elsewhere. That gives us a total of 238 parking spaces proposed. With the 5 car share parking spaces that we have now in the parking garage and the requirement of a 1 to 2 per student and the 3 that's required by the retail space, the requirement is 216 parking spaces by zoning, and we have 238 proposed. So in our opinion, we exceed the zoning requirement. In addition to that, the applicant has a lease with the church. So there was some statements regarding the church parking. They do have a lease. That's not part of our application, but if parking ever becomes an issue in the future, they do have another 120 spaces at the church parking lot.
Okay, but just back up for 1 second then.
Yeah.
Your narrative says you have an agreement with the church, and now you're saying you don't have an agreement with the church.
No.
Which
We
is-
have an agreement with the church.
Right.
It's not part of our application for the zoning because we meet the zoning per what we added in the parking garage and the agreement with the city for the 50 parking spaces.
It was in your application, right? The narrative?
Excuse me? The narrative states that they do have an agreement with the church, correct?
But nothing's been submitted saying to the contrary as of yet, right? So I'm just trying to figure out where your parking is.
Yep.
When you were here last time, you told us you had agreement with the church.
That is correct.
The narrative and the comments that were taken by the transportation engineer went by what was given to us on February 15th. And that said there was a approval with the church. So I'm just trying to figure out what has changed, what hasn't changed, and what comments we're getting and what we're not getting, and where we're headed on this.
Bill Fidelli for the applicant, 10 Liberty Square, Boston, Mass. Chairman Linehan, thanks for the question. To clarify, Bob is correct. We more than doubled the parking on site to 188. Add the 50 spaces from the city, that's 238. That's per the application. In addition to that, we currently still have the signed lease with the church. That lease will be used for overflow parking in the event that we experience a parking need that's greater than, what we have under the zoning requirement. As Bob mentioned, zoning requires 50% of the bed coverage, plus some of the retail, and then you net out some of the car sharing. That gets to the 216 count. So our 238 exceeds the 216. Now, to speak a little bit more in depth about the operational side, I believe the university in their 2016 master plan talked about their on-campus parking experience. Currently, 30% of the students that live on campus bring a car. If we were to apply that to our property, that would be a total of 144 parking spaces. So just to reiterate a little differently, if we were to experience the same parking coverage the university has, we would not need 216 spaces, we would only need 144. We have gone above and beyond that with signing the lease with our neighbor, the Transfiguration Greek Church, and if we were to experience overflow, that is what that lot is there for.
And the distance from the church to your site is?
Slightly longer than a David Ortiz home run. So it's about 550 feet.
Well, if it's the pesky pole, it's probably about 315.
It's about 550 feet from the new doorway on the corner of Market and Cabot.
Right.
Now, I will also say that if you were to walk slightly farther towards Pawtucket Street, there is the University of Massachusetts at Lowell shuttle bus stop. Every single shuttle bus line that the university has stops at that location. And I'm sure you're going to want to talk about buses as well. As we all know, the LRTA bus runs up and down Merrimack Street and stops at our property on the other side. We have a picture of it stopping on the other side of Merrimack Street.
We'll get to that. I'm sticking with the parking for now.
Okay.
Okay. So the church is with outside the requirement because that's 400 feet. So if you want us to use the church as a background, you'd need a request for a waiver on that, correct?
That is correct. That's why we did not include it as part of this zoning application, as part of this application.
So you're saying you have 50 parking spaces with the city?
Yes.
Correct. And let me just pull up your map. So how far is it from your project to the Ayard Street parking garage?
By our calculation, it's 1,500 feet.
Less.
1,500 feet?
Yeah, it's just under 1,500 feet.
Okay.
From our entrance to the property to the nearest accessible route of the public right-of-way, which
I'm
the
sorry, say that
Americans
again,
with-
from where to where?
Yeah, so it's a straight line from our entrance to the parking facility property line. And that is the location of the nearest accessible route to the facility. That's the way we measured it.
So wait a minute. So you measured it from where? From the corner of your property to,
From our entrance,
from the entrance? Which entrance?
from from our
Which street?
Merrimack Street
Okay, gotcha. Go ahead.
to the parking lot facilities property line, which is the nearest accessible route. And the Americans with Disability Act define the front door by the public right-of-way to a public parking facility, to a public facility.
Okay, and you say it's 1,500 feet?
That is correct.
Okay.
It's just under.
I'm sorry?
It's just under 1,500.
Does staff have a comment on that? Because by looking at this map here, it's 2,200 feet to the Songus Arena, to the Songus Center, by the front door. And by me looking at it, it appears to be it's more than 1,500 feet. Christine, do you have a comment on that? I mean, just trying to figure out the parking before we get much further into this.
How our office consistently applies this section of the zoning is we measure from the entrance of the use to the entrance of the parking garage. So for my calculation on my GIS is not to the accessible entrance, but actually to the garage door, which gets to 1645.
So your calculations come out to 1645, okay, feet, okay? All right. So your opinion, it would need a variance to the parking,
Yes.
okay? Okay, go ahead, sir.
So with that, the 50 from the city and the 188 on site gives us 238 parking per the zoning. What's required per Christine's calculation is 216. So we feel that we exceed the parking requirement. We did add 5 car sharing spaces, 50 bike spaces, and as Bill mentioned, there's 2 bus routes that run by the facility. We have also agreed to move the LRT bus stop at the corner, to the corner of Merrimack and Cabot Street. It's about a block in the opposite direction than the university, so we have agreed and worked with city staff on that.
So do we have a letter from the bus station that they're gonna park there, they stop there?
It's in the city comments that we
No,
are
it's asked
working.
if you have a letter saying they're gonna park, they stop there, that's all. It's either yes or no. I mean,
Yeah, Nick, did you have a letter from them, or is it?
no, I'm asking you, sir, okay? You're the applicant. I'm just asking if you have a letter from the transportation people that are gonna stop the bus there. Very simple.
I personally do not have a letter, no.
Thank you. So while we want parking, where's the visitor parking gonna be?
The visitor parking?
Yeah.
We have 2 levels in the garage, and we have 188 spaces in the building. So the requirement is half per the student.
Okay, so,
So
because the parking's for the students, so where's the visitor parking gonna be?
the calculations are in effect for the entire development. It doesn't differentiate student versus visitor. We just merely meet the requirement.
So you're not using any calculations for visitor parking then, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Which is required under the special permit under traffic and access safety, number D12. Okay, thank you.
Can I add some more clarification to that? As I mentioned previously, and as Bob has mentioned a couple times now, we conform with the zoning requirement of minimum 50% coverage. We meet and exceed that. In addition, we have overflow parking at the Transfiguration Greek Church. To the extent that we do have excess demand, looking for spaces, we can utilize the parking at the church to satisfy that. Now, if we experience the same demand that the university experiences on campus, then only 144 of our spaces will be occupied, which would leave 44 spaces available for overflow parking on site. I have to believe that the university is probably the best competitor to look at when it comes down to parking. They're experiencing 30% for their on-campus. Where we have cited this building, we view this as fall out of bed to campus. And if that's true, then I would anticipate we're going to have the same parking demand that the university experiences.
Okay, I'm just looking by what you've submitted for the special permit.
Aaron,
and you-
one thing to consider is, practically speaking, is, I mean, this is...
I mean, you're asking us to go along with everything the university says then?
Well, I wanted to go back and address something else with respect to the visitor parking that you talked about.
Yep.
We talk about this is urban living, this is city living.
I'm just going by the special permit requirements that
this-
you cited and put in the narrative, that's all.
Right, and in terms of the city living, part of this is we don't want to overburden the community there, that we have, which we talked about, is overflow parking. I think that these young students who live in the dormitory could conceivably use the Transfiguration lot as an overflow parking for visitors to accommodate that, so that we don't overburden the community. And I think that's that is a minor inconvenience, and it serves the purpose for which any kind of visitor overflow would require.
All right, you can continue. Go ahead. I just had a couple of questions on the parking, that's okay.
So with that, I'll pass it over to Dan Thorne.
My name is Dan Thorne. I'm with a developer. I live at 91 and a half Inman Street in Cambridge. So I wanted to make a few comments regarding the economic impact of our building, statements which we also included in our submission. Our involvement in this project started really with the university. I think many people, certainly in Lowell, have been watching over the last 10 or 15 years and longer the tremendous success of the university here in Lowell. And we were watching that as well as we were growing our business, providing student housing in university markets across the country. And so we started as a firm researching Lowell and the university and the housing situation here for students off campus, as we've done in other markets. And we came across this particular location in a conversation with the development office here in Lowell. One of the times I was up here in Lowell, Allison agreed to meet with me. And I met with her and some of the other people in the development office here in the city across the courtyard here. And just had a conversation with them, telling them, you know, what we were researching and interested in doing, and learning a little bit about the city and the city's involvement in development and how we might be able to work together. And that's where Allison had on file an RFP or some marketing information that Jeanne d'Arc Credit Union had put together for this site on Merrimack Street. And she had also introduced us to the master plan of the city that talks about, you know, the goals for the city and what they're looking for with developments and economic development and businesses coming into the city. And it was a really fun conversation for us to be having together, because it was clear so many of the things that we look for as we look to grow our business were strong, very complementary to what was laid out in the master plan. We look to have, provide housing that's near a campus, so which is, we call pedestrian to campus, so students can walk to class. They can be much more engaged in the university. They're part of the school in their life where they live. We like to have locations that also are tied into the community, into the city, and to see in the master plan where it talked about the need for student housing, and it addressed the need to minimize traffic impact, have pedestrian access to the campus, to classes, help with the economic impact of having students living in the city, spending at the local businesses, having Lowell, as grow along with the university, to continue to grow as a university town, to become a college town. And all these goals in the master plan, we were happy to include as we had conversations with the Jeanne d'Arc Credit Union to acquire the site and to develop the project, and as we had ongoing conversations with the city and people throughout the city. These were very important considerations in identifying this location and site for our project. And of course, so, our estimate for the economic impact for the project over 10 years is approximately $25 million. That's a combination of the increased property taxes. The master plan specifically calls for the redevelopment of empty lots along Merrimack Street, the Merrimack Street corridor, for housing, for student housing, as a way to connect downtown with the university and put underutilized property back on the tax roll and improve the property tax base. We also, of course, with the development, there's permitting fees. There's the employment we bring. There was an important part of the plan was to help improve employment in a part of the city that where employment opportunities are very important, can be very beneficial. And so there's the 12 full-time employees that we'll have as part of our business. There's the employees that will be brought in as part of the commercial space. We've worked further, had many conversations with various organizations that are dedicated towards improving employment and economic achievement of the neighborhood. And we have an agreement with the Lowell Housing Authority to help both with their initiatives to provide, to bring people who are not in the workforce, to educate them, bring them into the workforce, to help that, to give them sort of a hiring preference where we would agree to hire candidates who are appropriate and meet the needs for the positions that we would have open, as well as to provide commercial space as part of the building to support local entrepreneurship and businesses that are being developed and supported through these other organizations and the work LHA does. And then, importantly, we have, of course, the residents and the resident spending and impact on that. And we have an estimate for the impact of the resident spending, very similar to the study the Lowell Plan presented, going back a few years. I think it was approximately 2009 when the university bought the Inn and Conference Center. And the Lowell Plan calculated that the positive economic impact from having students downtown would be approximately $3,000 a year for students, which is close to our estimate from a number of sources, including a study out of Western Michigan University. So, so we've worked very hard to bring a project that has positive economic impact and also does so in some unique and interesting ways, contributing to the work of some local groups, helping employment and helping specifically the needs that are unique to this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We've gone through a preliminary presentation for you, Mr. Chairman. And we know that there are members of the community here that support this project, that we've incorporated their concerns into the project. We're here to take any of your questions.
I know you brought plenty of pictures up here and the architectural. Could someone just walk us through that, please? Especially for the people who are in the audience with us as well, so they can understand what all the pictures are, what all the designs are, and how the levels are, if you don't mind. Thank you. Sure, absolutely, sure. Yeah. If you did all that hard work, you want to make sure we share it with everybody. So if you can try to just face the audience just a little bit, we can catch on, because we can see. Christine will help you by setting that up. And that microphone just has to be the green light so people can hear you. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Thanks, Christine. So I'll start here with the Merrimack Street elevation. This is the main entrance to the student residence as well as the retail side. There's a parking entrance on the left side there, and a corner entrance here at the corner of Cabot and Merrimack. We have some fantastic double height space given the change with our additional level of parking for great visibility. We can see the activity of the students, interaction with the street. And these spaces right over here would be the retail. That would also have some great visibility, interaction along the street as well. The rest of it is all the student housing, lots of students living and studying and going about their daily lives like the rest of us do, and being a part of the community. backside here, I have Cabot Street. You can see how the elevation changes. There's a bit of a topography along the site. That is what allowed us to get the access to the second level of parking. Putting the parking here is critical in order to make that happen. We were able to do it. It took some finesse, but it worked out in our favor. It's the shorter street, so it's a pretty simple elevation as that goes. And we have our additional entrance in this corner as well. I have an enlarged rendering here, so you can get a street scale, what that would be like. This space here would be our future art studio, collaborative space. And you can see we have large, big storefront style windows. This would be what's attracted to the arts gallery, display windows, all on Market Street would be your experience there. We have new street lighting, street vegetation, trees, a really comfortable and attractive setting here.
Keep going, sir. No comments, please. Let him speak. Only one person speak at a time. Everybody gets a chance, but no interruptions.
This perspective here is Market Street from the other direction. You can see, again, the large-scale windows. All would be filled with artwork, representing part of the community and the hard work of artists here as well.
Can we just see that picture, please? Yeah, thank you. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, thank you. That's better. Thank you.
I will jump quickly to just give you a bit more perspective from the site plans. The building is designed around courtyards. This allows internal light and internal to the building, exterior space for the students. These amenities would be filled with student activities, lounging, and studying spaces as well. We're in urban conditions, so we're right up against the sidewalk, but we do have space for vegetation, street planters, additional green space all along the perimeter of the building as well. At the ground floor, as we described, half of the parking would be on the first level, retail up front, student amenities would be right at the street level, all of this with glass showing off the activity of the space, giving students a sense of home and a street presence as well. Down here on Market Street, we have our collaborative space at street level, and internal is our new loading solution, getting all 3 loading spaces on site. Trash as well would be hidden. This is all internal. There would be no external trash on the street. Everything happens inside the building. At the second level of parking, that happens just above the parking below. Most of these spaces here would be the same spaces as below, double height, big windows, tall volumes, a really attractive space to walk by. Would be very active with students. Retail would have its own activity as well. And just to give you a sense of what student apartment style would look like, we have a mix of all different types of bedrooms, allowing students to each have their own bedroom and bathroom, which is a big plus for this type of development. Study areas on each floor, courtyard, additional amenity space, gathering spaces, study spaces, internal trash room that each student would have access to. And right from the residential level, you'd have access to this corner entrance as well. And lastly, I'll just leave you with the perspective here at the corner of Merrimack and Cabot. As you can see, given the neighborhood, there's scales of different types in this building, in this neighborhood, buildings of all types, and that's part of any urban fabric. You'd have that kind of condition, and we feel that we are not nearly the biggest nor the smallest, and that helps fit this fabric together. Lots of transparency, lots of big windows. There would be great amenity to any student, and a great urban condition for all those walking by. Do you have any further questions?
No, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Anything further on behalf of the applicant before I open up to the public?
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Anybody this evening who likes to speak in favor of the matter, just please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and please sign in.
Gary Wallace, 45 Meadowbrook Road, North Chelmsford, Mass. Here is the Executive Director of the Lowell Housing Authority to speak in support of the dormitory project at the JDCU site. The Lowell Housing Authority is an abutter, long-term partner, and proponent of the City of Lowell and Acre neighborhood. I have worked in this neighborhood for 31 years and witnessed firsthand the incremental progress in our neighborhood, beginning with the development of the new market basket, the senior center, the pharmacy, the clearing out of the former Golden Block blight, the redevelopment of the Acre Triangle, the repurposing of the Jean de Baptist Church by TMI, the Songus Arena, LaLasha Park, University Crossing, the John Dark Credit Union's new headquarters and branch office, the Howe Bridge, and millions of dollars that the Lowell Housing Authority has spent in the Acre. A number of partners deserve credit for the renaissance of the Acre, including this board. The Action Group, the CBA, Brian McGowan, the University, the Credit Union, the City of Lowell, the Lowell Housing Authority, and the labor unions here tonight. Dave Willett, in particular, deserves an enormous amount of credit for his relentless insistence that the developers include several components that are important to the quality of life in our neighborhood. No doubt this is a better proposal today because of Dave. This project is exactly what the neighborhood needs. It brings students within walking distance to the university, helping to continue the transformation of the neighborhood in a positive way. It brings vitality and energy to our neighborhood. We at the Housing Authority have met with the developer a number of times, and it is clear that WFI wants to contribute to our community and, most importantly, to the Acre neighborhood. They have addressed the issues of parking, the creation of retail space, and the resident management issues that were previously raised. WFI has engaged the neighborhood stakeholders and have signed a formal MOU with the LHA that commits to a hiring preference for qualified Acre residents and a commitment to donating retail space for Acre residents, startup businesses, or light manufacturing, two key components that were called for in the Smart Growth America study commissioned by the City of Lowell. They are exactly the corporate citizens that we should be encouraging in our city. I respectfully urge approval for the special permit and site plan this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Can I just ask one question? Sure. So where's the retail space that they're going to give to the Housing Authority? Where's that located?
That hasn't been identified, but it is going to be on Market Street.
So is it
Merrimack Street, I'm sorry, Merrimack
on
Street.
this site plan here?
Yes.
And how big was that? That was? I'm sorry.
Minimum of 400 square feet.
400 square feet, okay. I thought you said that. Okay, thank you, sir. So be on site here, okay. Okay, okay, thank you. Just wanted to figure out where that was. Thank you, Mr. Wallace, appreciate your comments.
I am Mark Cochran, President and CEO of Jean d'Arc Credit Union, 1 Tremont Place here in Lowell. I also want to thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I did submit a letter, which I will not read, I will summarize. As you know, the Jean d'Arc Credit Union has been in the neighborhood for 106 years, been an economic engine throughout the Acre, has never left. We are active in the Working Cities Challenge, both in a leadership role in terms of funding the initiatives there. Several of my staff, including myself, are involved in organizations important to and connected to the Acre, many of which are represented here tonight. I also want to express my thanks for the neighborhood groups, the work that they did to really help define and refine and get us to where we are tonight. And a special thanks to Dave Willett for listening and being willing to help us and guide this project. So thank you. One of the things I want to point out, I do feel like University Massachusetts Lowell wants a near monopoly on dormitory housing. We think a quality, off-campus, privately financed dorm offers students and their parents an alternative. And we think it's an excellent alternative that any student would want to be a part of. We feel it does not compete with our other initiatives in the neighborhood, whether they be the Housing Authority's Renew Housing Plans or what the coalition is planning to do in the future. We feel this greatly complements those initiatives. We think it brings new income into the neighborhood. As was mentioned earlier, there'll be over 400 students, some of which we hope will be members of the credit union, but certainly others, whether they be the pizza shops or the corner stores that are around that neighborhood, will certainly benefit from those students. From the economic impact, I just want to highlight that, as is well known through Perkins Street and others, that the university does not pay property tax. This is a project that will. This is a project that's estimated to pay in the neighborhood of $250,000 to $280,000 a year. That was important to us as a seller. We wanted to make sure we were providing the city with revenue that is needed for that neighborhood and also to fund other initiatives within the city. So in this regard, I just wanted you to know that the credit union does not have other alternatives waiting in the wings to consider the challenge that we've had since 2014 when we moved across the street. And so we are fully supportive and behind WFI and their initiative to create this project. Feel it's an excellent addition to the neighborhood, and we're proud to be part of it, not only as a seller, but as a neighbor. And we plan to be there another 100 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Not me
sir.
personally, but the credit union.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor?
My name is Matt Mom, 35 Backman Street, Centerville. I'm executive officer for Local 3 Bricklayers. I'm a commissioner on the board for the Lowell Housing Authority, and both my organizations are in high favor for this project. I believe, and all these guys up here believe, this is a project that area needs. The area needs a facelift, and this could do it. It could put local people to work. We have an agreement to put local bricklayers to work there. And they talk about art, being shown. What about the art of architecture, masonry? This city's a city of brick. It's a red city, and that area, it's been vacant for too long, and it's a wasted space, whereas you could put it to work. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Christian Zuzas, Transfiguration Greek Orthodox Church. The Transfiguration has been here with the blue domes right over there in the North Common for close to 100 years. And the core mission of our church is obviously to help the homeless and most disadvantaged of our society. With the rental agreement that we have with the fellows here, will help us continue to fund our mission through the years to come. I don't have anything else if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, I just have one. Last time we were here and I asked you a question, you told me to look at the lease. I looked at the lease and it was all blacked out and redacted, so it wasn't very helpful.
Oh, what was the question?
I asked you how much money you were getting paid from the developer to put the parking on your site.
Yeah, I answered it back then.
And you said to me, why don't you look at the lease?
No, I said it was
You said, it's in the lease. And I said, you're not going to tell me? And then you answered me.
Well,
So I looked at the lease. It's not in the lease that we received, just to let you know.
No, I did state last meeting what the amount was.
No, that was after I asked you a second time. Yeah, okay. But you told me to look at the lease. You recall that?
No.
You know? Okay.
Well,
Check
anything
on
you need.
TV, you'll see.
Well, anything you need is in the lease.
Yeah. But you know what the lease says to me? It's all blacked out. It's all redacted. Everything's crossed out in black.
Well,
There's
must
not
be.
one figure in there. There's not half the questions I asked. It's all in black. So I did look at the lease like you requested.
All right. Well.
Go ahead.
Mr. Linehan.
That's okay. Go ahead. Just a comment I made. You don't need a rebuttal on it. Just keep the meeting going. Okay. Next.
Hi, my name is Richard Wild. I live 84 Juniper Lane in Tewksbury, Mass. 10 years ago, probably, I did something similar to this to get the Appleton Mills project, to get it going. You know, I drove by the Appleton Mills project on my way over here tonight, and it looks terrific. And I know what it looked like before then. 10 years, or 8 or 10 years from now, we could look at something like this and say, hey, you got a good team of guys looking to come in and build something really quality. And anytime you do something like this, it just makes our towns better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Matt Elkins. I'm a resident of 7 Garren Terrace of Lowell Housing. I'd like to thank everyone for their hard work and their insight for wanting to revitalize the area. I'm a lifetime resident of the city of Lowell. I've lived in virtually every part of the city. I've been living at Lowell Housing for about 5-6 years now. During that time, I've seen the area, not so well. It's not very healthy. I've talked to a lot of my neighbors, and this area needs it. Not the normal person that lives in housing, an Army veteran. I have a degree in criminal justice with a focus on youth and family. My background with that is everything from youth and family to law enforcement. Currently, I am an interfaith minister, and I work with the community. What I see here is a great opportunity. It's going to revitalize the area. The work, the construction work, the people that are going to be going to work every single day to demolish the area, to rebuild the area, it's going to help the local businesses. They're going to go across the street, they're going to grab subs, they're going to get food from the Latino restaurants, the Asian restaurants, they're going to go shopping, they're going to get coffee. There's going to be business, there's going to be revitalization. The neighborhood is going to see that the city cares, that the city is willing to invest in the area. The area is dying, from what I see. And now you're going to bring in window life. You're going to bring in new revenue. You're going to bring in art. You're going to bring in businesses. You're going to bring in interest. The college students coming in to this new building, they're going to see what Lowell is all about. They're going to see the history of Lowell, the beauty of Lowell that most people don't see. The people that live here are blind to what the community offers. And this will be a great opportunity to have other people see it, to let other people from other parts of the country, other parts of the Commonwealth, to see what the city has to offer. It's a great city. We need to let the community know. We need to let people know. We need to let people know the history. We need to let the community know that the city cares. The fact that they're willing to sit there and give employment opportunity to low-income people, people that maybe they don't have the skills, they don't have the college background, they don't have the economic know-how to get back on their feet. These gentlemen are willing to open that up to the community, which is something that is greatly needed. They need to know that the people in this building, the people at Lowell Housing, the investors care, because that's the only time they're going to start caring about themselves. Right now, we're looking at a broken window syndrome in the area. The area is running down. You have places that are vacant. You have, just fencing in a once vital area, and it impacts the psychological impact of the community and the environment. This is great. This is a great opportunity. You're going to be bringing in new interest. You're going to be bringing in greener environment, which is lacking in the area. It's a wonderful opportunity for the community. It's a wonderful opportunity for the city. It's a wonderful opportunity for new businesses. It's a great, thing that we really need. And to let this go, I think would harm the community. It would harm the city. It would harm the educational opportunities within the city. UMass started out as Lowell Tech. The college itself has an incredible history. The city has an incredible history. It's time to bring it together. It's time to revitalize the environment, to bring life back to the residents, life back to the community. Hope, which is greatly needed. It is, in short supply for the environment. And to see something like this, to see a project outside their windows, to see the people coming to work, wanting to engage with the people in the area. I feel it will greatly help not only the economic environment, but the mental health, the spiritual health, the community health, and that's what you need. You want to help the community, you want to help that environment, you want to lessen the crime, you want to help people, say, hey, look, I want to do something. Now you're going to have a college dorm right in their community. Most of these people don't realize they have college opportunities. I've worked with them. I've worked with the community, and they don't think they have an opportunity. But to have something like this in their, right outside their door will give them hope. It will help them realize that there are opportunities out there, especially economic opportunities. If they're a janitor, if they're, just asked to go around and clean up the trash around the neighborhood, it helps to give a purpose to their community. And it's not there. This will help. And I thank everyone for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Joe Grenham, 66 years on Christian Hill. I've been in the bricklayers business for 50 years. I've put numerous buildings up for the university, for the city of Lowell. I've put up buildings throughout the Commonwealth. This is a nice building. It'd be a damn shame if we didn't build this. You're going to put all these people from Lowell to work in the Merrimack Valley. It's very important. The acre is a dying section. Kentuckus is closed. Frankie Minoski's office is closed. Come on, everybody. This should be going through like nothing.
Can I ask you a question? Joe, can I ask you a question?
I'm sorry.
I mean, just to let you know, I know you guys have certain codes you have to follow. Well, we have a code.
I understand that. I get it.
I just want to say nicely is, in our code, it doesn't tell us if you hire local or union people.
I understand.
That's a criteria we can't decide. I understand that. I'm just saying for the record, that's something, if we denied it because they didn't hire the union, or if they didn't hire the local people, then it would be overturned on appeal. If we approved it because they're going to hire the union, then we'd be denied too, because we have no right to decide who builds it.
No, I understand that.
I'm just saying, so.
I want, I mean, these people need, these
I understand
most
that. I
of
just want
these
the people to
people's kids-
understand.
These kids go to the University of Lowell,
I
most of
understand
those
that.
kids.
I'm
So,
just
I
saying
mean,
that it's not a criteria that we can accept and put in our findings, whether it's localized people who work there. Obviously, we want jobs for everybody, whether it's local or unionized. But I'm just saying that's not a criteria that's in our code book. Like I know electrical union was here last time, and I know they have a code. We in the planning board, we have a code.
I got you.
And you guys follow it. And we respect your input. I'm just saying there's certain things that are outside the aspect of our code. But your input is important to us.
Once again, I've been building buildings for 50 years.
That's important to
That's
us.
a nice building. You
That-
guys should consider
that's
that.
im- that's
And the
important.
university doesn't run this city.
I understand
They don't
that.
run this city.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name's Jay Fraser. I live at 75 Spring Street in Weymouth, Mass. Since you mentioned the electricians, I figured I'd get up. I'm a member of the North Shore Building Trades, Merrimack Valley Building Trades. Like Joe was talking about, we got members here. My job is to come out and try to put members to work, just like your job is to go by the rules and everything else. But it seems to me that there's a little competition going on here. I think the university, which Local 103 does a ton of work at, is afraid of a little competition. Simple. It's real simple. They're afraid of this beautiful building, like Joe just said, being built and no one wanting to stay in their dorms. And that's fine. So what I'm going to suggest is we build this one, and then we do UMass's over too. Make it just as nice as this one. That's what I think. You heard Joe up here. Joe's lived here 66 years, and UMass shouldn't run the city. They shouldn't. You know, I understand they're a big dog in this city. A lot of stuff happens with them. But this is a beautiful project. Security, parking. These guys have jumped through hoops to build this. And just from my side, I understand that you guys can't say because of union, non-union, or anything like that. But how often do we have somebody come into this town and say, hey, I want to pay a decent wage. I want the guy on the job getting health care. I want the guy on the job getting a pension. It doesn't happen. It doesn't. That's why we're here tonight. This is a great project. Shovels should be going into the ground any day now.
Anybody else? Anybody else in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, I'll turn it over to anybody in opposition. Anybody in opposition? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Dave Willett, 113 Cabot Street, Lowell, Massachusetts.
You're the one they're all referring to, huh?
I think so, yes. Thank you, thank you. And it is a beautiful project. The building itself is interesting. It's come a long way. Hi, first I'd like to thank everybody in this room for coming, and I would especially thank the board. You're going to have a huge decision to make tonight. There's a lot of passion in this room. Everybody involved here, people, homeowners, organizations, unions, all have a reason to be here. Gender Credit Union is a terrific partner in business in the acre and the city. I believe in them. I have my mortgages and my accounts with them. The other entities that are here in this room are here for a reason. They love the acre. We are all just trying to make sure that this project or whatever ends up on that piece of property is going to be the best possible project that we can put there. The Dome has come a long way. WFI has seen and talked to a lot of people over the past months. Thank you. When they started this project, they didn't seem to realize the neighborhood they were coming into. It seemed like they were under an impression somehow that it was just going to be a slam dunk and it was just going there, and that was that. Those instilled beliefs from wherever have cost all of us, WFI and the acre residents and businesses, a lot of time and aggravations. Those actions have divided a great group of people. Now, together with a lot of work, and I have to give WFI credit again, they've done a tremendous change to the building. They even have gone as far as adding another floor of parking, adding more entrepreneurial and business space. And if this project goes through, they have committed to go union, which is great. I have been union all my life. I was local 429 Labor's Union of North America for many years, and I am vested. I'm still union with the city and head my department, and I'm in negotiations right now with management for our next contract. I believe in our unions, and I'm glad you are here and involved, because if this does pass, I know it will be built with union pride. Fellow union members, we are not talking whether or not we want this to be built union. We are not talking whether the union is good, and of course we know it's great. We just don't want to build something there just to build something there, even if it's built by union. Our neighborhood will need to live with this for the rest of our lives. This is a big decision, and again, I thank the planning board. You have a lot to go through tonight, and you'll be hearing a lot of different stories from both sides, and I'm asking everybody in this room to just have a discussion, just talk about the issues. Gary already mentioned the hundreds of millions of dollars in revitalization and projects in our neighborhood. We know our neighborhood, and we no longer have major drug or crime issues in the acre, so please refrain from a reason to go forward. I'm president and founder of the Acre Neighborhood Group Action, over 300 members. We revitalized the 450-seat amphitheater. We have salsa in the park. We have dance. We have festivals. We have people cooking out up there during these festivals. We have church groups singing and movie nights that are enjoyed by over 1,000 people every summer. Together with hundreds of people and many organizations, the City of Lowell, lots of children, Youth Build America, we have 40-bed community gardens that Mill City grows, playgrounds, a brand-new volleyball court, handball court, basketball court, and thanks to JC Basketball, 240 children enjoy basketball and learn teamwork. We built another community garden with a park by Cody's, and again, hundreds of people came out to help build and include Youth Build America, UMass students, Lowell housing tenants, and JDCU employees. Decatur Way, we took out an area that was full of trees and brush, an alley that was drug-infested, 1,200 foot long. Now it's a beautiful walkway, full of artwork. We did that with the schools, the churches, in conjunction with over 40 entities, including Lowell Housing, Gender Credit Union, and UMass Lowell, and the City of Lowell. We have a history of working together. Putting down the acre and our residents doesn't serve a purpose. Tonight we're all here in one room, and this project has kind of separated us a little bit, but we are a strong neighborhood, and we have had differences before. We'll all be fine after the vote of the board, either way the vote goes. We have a strong bond that we can have discussions like this, and at the end of the day, still be in unity. It'll be in unity. I lost my place. I still have concerns about this project, and amazed and pleased that they actually added the other floor of parking. That brought us a lot closer. But a lot of these spots, none of these spots, I believe, are dedicated to any unit. They're all sellable. It's not a part of the amenities of the units. And they have added workspace and art space, but it's still coming down to common concern is what if it does not succeed as a dormitory. That is what our neighborhood concern is. What will we be left with? We have this huge building built right to the sidewalk. We have families living in there, and they want to go outside. They end up on the sidewalk there to play. The North Common Village, Archambault Towers, the Northern Canela properties, there's always a place for families to coexist, for families to enjoy themselves. And that's one of the main concerns here. If it's not a dorm, what will we end up with? The Edge project, we wouldn't say is one of the most productive new buildings in our area. Right now, we're asked to believe WFI and understand how strong their business model is. If this does pass, I hope it truly is better than any of us would believe. UMass Lowell has about 300 empty beds. The Edge has about 150 empty beds. One of the stories that I hear from WFI is that the students will leave the rental units they are now living in and move into the new dorm. I've talked with many of the landlords that rent to students right now. They don't have empty beds. They have hundreds of beds, and their landlords never had a vacancy in the last 5 years. The students have yards they can come and cook out. They have yards they can enjoy the sunshine on a great New England day. I go by some of these apartments, and they're always having a great time. I check with the police reports. They do not have many problems. They are coexisting in the Acre neighborhood. These landlords have taken over some of the houses that used to be crime-infested buildings and completely remodeled them, which actually helped change the streets and crime issues went away. The college kids are great, and when they are living with good landlords and maintain the property and care about the students, it shows. They will not leave. On the Upper Merrimack Street, we have many rooming houses serving a needed population. We have residential units. We have affordable housing. We have public housing with many different ethnic groups. We are blessed to have a very diverse neighborhood. This is why it's so important to all of us that we are so passionate, because if this passes, then fails, we are left with an enormous task of how to correct it. To add a building of 466 students will change the dynamics of our neighborhood to mostly students in the Upper Merrimack corridor. From their plan, they believe that this could make it work and hope that if this passes, WFI has the same persistent and determined attitude they are now doing trying to get this to pass and use the same energy and resources to succeed. If this fails, what will it do to the tax base? Because one of the things everybody's promoting is how much tax revenue it will make for the city. If the dorm doesn't succeed, who will buy it? Lowell Housing, UMass, any nonprofit? It's no longer on the tax roll, and now we have 163 units in an already dense neighborhood, which will change the dynamics of parking, also any agreements with the city parking lots, and also agreements with the Greek church with their parking lot. If this does go through, I'm counting on the planning board to impose conditions to address lighting, crosswalks, and any and all needed street and sidewalk issues, all parking issues on the street, and et cetera. So it's a big decision tonight. We'll hear from many people and many other reasons for and against. But please, everybody in this room, be friendly and have a discussion, because there's a lot of passion in this room, and it's a big decision for the board members to make. I know at the end of the day, either which way it goes, our friendship in the community will still be there, so good luck to all. Be thoughtful of your comments and with your time tonight, and please remember, we are here because we love our neighborhood. Nobody is wrong for having their beliefs. Like I always say at our monthly acre meetings, this is our acre, and together we decide what we want in our great neighborhood. Thank you.
Dave, if I could just respond to one of your questions, if you don't mind, please? Thank you. The question is, if it doesn't succeed as a dorm, unfortunately, that's not one of the things we can consider.
Correct.
We raised that at the pre-application. I believe you were here at the last one, because I know we've had two now, since we've been here 4 times. So the question come up is, and I believe we asked the applicant the same question, and they said they'd be able to fill in it by lower than the fee to stay there. But one of the things on the criteria, we can't deny or approve it due to the fact that if it doesn't succeed at a dorm, what will happen?
I do understand that,
Okay.
yes.
So, I mean, like the same thing before, when they came in with the first project, they indicated about how they were gonna do things in the future to fix the parking down the road and all that stuff, and we couldn't consider that either. So whether it's for them or against them, the fact of what happens in the future, unfortunately, is not a criteria we can today. And I think one of the reasons a lot of people have questions about the parking, is the fact is, we want to make sure that there is sufficient parking no matter which way it goes.
Correct.
So, so basically, whether it succeeds or not, obviously, if this gets approved, either way, we want it to succeed.
Correct.
Will the numbers fulfill that way? I do not know. But that's the questions that have been raised by, they've been discussed at pre-application stages, been discussed by planning board members at the pre-application stage, but unfortunately, we don't have an answer for that if it doesn't succeed, unfortunately.
Correct.
So hopefully, if it gets approved or whichever way it goes,
And that's the only reason why I brought it up, is just to show the reason that we're not against a great building.
I understand.
We're not against building at Union. We've already seen one dorm not passing. We've already seen some other stuff. And that is one of our main concerns is, if we have an empty building, what do we do?
Yeah.
If it doesn't work? And I know it's not part of the criteria, but I just.
Oh, I understand that, and I'm glad you understand that. I'm glad you understand where we're coming from. Appreciate it very much.
All right. Thank you very much,
sir.
everybody.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, not quite yet. All right. I feel like it's Groundhog Day. This is deja vu. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Maxine Farkas. I live at Western Avenue Lofts, and I am a founding member of the Acre Coalition to Improve Our Neighborhood. As I reviewed my notes from the last 3 times I stood before you, it was a bit of a struggle to figure out a way to address my concerns without just repeating myself, since so little has really changed since last year. I have 5 major concerns: parking, traffic, the Market Street facade, density, and scale. I have a feeling that you will hear a lot about parking tonight, so I'll keep it short. I suggest that you consider what happened at Renaissance on the River. That project, which was completed in 2006, received a variance and was allowed to have 1 parking spot per unit. It made sense at the time, since Perkins Place wasn't developed yet and there was an abundance of parking available. Fast forward to today. Parking is a major issue for that development because the variance was granted without thought for what might happen in the area in the future. If this project goes the way of the edge and the developer divests, as they have done with another property in their portfolio, and this project goes multifamily, there will be insufficient parking to satisfy current code, and there will be nothing that can be done. On the issue of traffic, the designer who placed a garage entrance on Cabot Street at the corner of Market has obviously never taken the Adams Street shortcut from Broadway, nor have they tried to get from Adams to Cabot without a wait during high traffic times. The elevation shows a garage door, which implies that residents will be waiting on the street while the door opens in order to get into the garage. Cars waiting was a major annoyance when the credit union was at the old location, and it will be worse because it won't be confined to payday. The same issue arises for the Merrimack Street garage entrance. The driveways that the city engineer refers to in his comments have been gone for at least 2 years. Therefore, the impact of the proposed garage entrances and loading docks needs to be looked at not in terms of what was there 2 years ago, but what impact they will have on the neighborhood in the future. The narrative states that the project responded to neighborhood voices. Seriously? The bare minimum of commercial space, less than 20% of the Merrimack Street facade, and no plan for that space. The Market Street facade has not altered significantly. The arts collaboration space and the art displayed windows being proposed by the developer are seen by many in the arts community as a feeble attempt to gain our approval for this project. And I can speak to this because I have been involved in the development of Western Avenue Studios from the beginning. I understand what is needed for gallery space, studio space, etc. The location is problematic, to say the least. There's no plan to provide a restroom or water to the space, which would make it useless for demonstrations, classes, or receptions. Theoretically, artists will be delighted to provide work free of charge to enhance a streetscape that pushes pedestrians away. There will be no designated parking for the space, so that if it is activated, visitors will be vying with neighborhood residents for on-street parking. They want the space to be activated, but are not willing to provide any kind of support for this to happen. The space is also way too small for gallery space. There's no storage, nothing. Market Street remains without eyes on the street and unsafe for pedestrians. Lowell 2025 prioritizes, and I quote, design practices for public and private spaces that provide a sense of safety and discourage criminal activity. There is no plan for monitoring the right-of-way between this building and its neighbors, and that area, which has no access points at all beyond loading dock doors, will very quickly become problematic. The project is unclear on the concept of activity, access, and most importantly, safety. Jane Jacobs said, see, I got her in, safety on the streets by surveillance and mutual policing of one another sounds grim, but in real life, it is not grim. The safety of the street works best, most casually, and with least frequent taint of hostility or suspicion, precisely where people are using and most enjoying the city streets voluntarily and are least conscious normally that they are policing. The basic requisite for such surveillance is a substantial quantity of stores and other public places sprinkled along the sidewalks of a district. Enterprises and public places that are used by evening and night must be among them especially. Stores, bars, and restaurants, as the chief examples, work in different and complex ways to abet sidewalk safety. The 370-plus foot facade on Market Street does nothing to promote sidewalk safety, and as Dick Cow pointed out in his blog this weekend, is contrary to good urban design practices. All right, now, Dave, I need you. All right, I went back and I mapped the two. I have smaller, if you can't see this very well, I have some smaller ones too.
Dave, you can approach, sure, absolutely, sure.
And I have these if you want them. I mapped the 2010 census data for tract 3883 from Father Morissette Boulevard to Fletcher Street and Pawtucket Street to Cross and Dutton. The highest density in the area in 2010 was the block bounded by Cabot, Moody, Austin, and Father Morissette. And you can see it, there's this little gold square. The highest density, okay, I got that. It had a density of 124 persons per acre. Overlaying the proposed dorm population on the Jeanne d'Arc parcel yields a population density of 256 persons per acre, more than double the current highest density. Now, Lowell 2025 cited city density as at a whole as 12.1 persons per acre, and that of the acre as a whole is 30 persons per acre. This is density without diversity, a population that is inherently transient in residence 9 or 10 months of the year. This kind of density in this neighborhood is totally unacceptable. One more, Dave.
Do you have a copy of that one you said?
I've got plenty of
Yeah.
copies for
Could you just submit it to the board so we'll have that, please? Thank you very much. Thank you.
There's a whole bunch.
Christine, why don't you keep one, and we'll pass them up here, okay? Thank you. Keep that one, keep one for yourself, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you, Maxine.
All right, in this instance, Google Street View was a great substitute for field work because I was looking at scale. And I was able to do a rough mapping of building heights by number of floors to get a sense of the relative scale of this project. This is the second page on that, on
Okay.
those.
Building scale by number of stories, okay? Thank you.
I mapped the dorm as a solid because green spaces showed on the elevations of the proposed dorm are above parking levels and in general will not be visible from the street. I ran out of color, so the red really represents greater than or equal to 7 stories. The architects have done a great job of skewing the renderings so that the mass of this building is downplayed. In July, I called the proposed project a monolith, and that is exactly what it is. With a majority of housing in the neighborhood 3 stories or less, the project doesn't acknowledge the character of the area. Lowell 2025 said that we should encourage mixed-use development where it will enhance the vitality or the viability of the neighborhood commercial districts, add amenities to neighborhood, and or be consistent with historic land use patterns that help shape and define certain neighborhoods. This project is not consistent with the land use patterns that shape the acre. Indeed, the Upper Merrimack Corridor report by MCOG proposed a mixed-use development for this site. Many of the plans for the acre call for student housing with commercial on the first floor and residential above. None of them call for student housing on the scale of this project. Many of us have been under a lot of pressure to abandon our opposition to this project, but I, for one, cannot in good conscience do so. The developer has implied that the residents of the acre are resistant to change. Since 2010, Action has been working on recreating our neighborhood one project at a time. The change we embrace is firmly grounded in numerous studies and reports, in addition to a basic sensitivity to neighborhood desires. We prefer change that is thoughtful and which is based on good design principles and a clear understanding of the needs and desires of a majority of neighborhood residents. Therefore, I respectfully request, as a resident of the acre and a member of Action, that the planning board deny approval for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, gentlemen. Joseph Boyle, 54 Laura Street. I've heard the applicant and several supporters tonight cite the need of the district to revitalize and the vacancy in the district as a reason to approve this plan, go a little easy on some of the standards, and generally accept what's being offered here. I'd like to talk about how we arrived here. In 2003 or 2004, the planning office looked up and realized that the Upper Merrimack Street district, the Upper Merrimack Street corridor, was spontaneously revitalizing itself. There had been a lot of work done, and we didn't do it. There had been a lot of work done in the acre to save the neighborhood, to address problems of vacancy and blight, and it's made a tremendous difference. But that was in other areas of the acre. Along the storefronts along Merrimack Street and around the corner onto Market were coming back and getting filled on their own without a whole lot of push from the city, and we decided we'd better take a look and learn what's going on there. That was over 10 years ago, and that process has continued on its own. The description that I've heard tonight of this as a declining neighborhood, as a blighted neighborhood, I ask you, are you hearing that from your planning office? Are you hearing that from your planning staff? Are you reading that in the city's comprehensive master plan? Are you reading that in the neighborhood plan that's being done there? No, you're not. Approaching this question as a matter of solving neighborhood blight and abandonment, hearing that argument being made by the applicant and their representatives, it reminds me of the definition of chutzpah. The definition of chutzpah is somebody who kills his parents, then asks the judge for mercy because he's an orphan. Let's talk about the Upper Merrimack Street District. I keep hearing about vacancy. There are 2 vacancies. There are 2 properties in the Upper Merrimack Street District that are vacant. One of them, the property owner has decided he'd rather lease out his parking lot than redevelop his building for his own reasons. And the other one is this property. This property, which was occupied and became vacant, not because of decline and disinvestment. It didn't fall into tax title. It wasn't suffering from deferred maintenance. I don't need to go on. You guys understand how a neighborhood becomes vacant. This property became vacant. This large vacancy exists because the property owner built 2 large new buildings in this neighborhood, in this allegedly declining neighborhood suffering from disinvestment. The reason there is a vacancy there is because the property owner who trying to get this permit tonight built in this neighborhood and then acquired several properties abutting their own, the original Jeanne d'Arc property, did some demolition in order to assemble land for development. This is not a case of vacancy and abandonment which needs to be addressed. This is the case of a prime development opportunity. There's the old saying, beggars can't be choosers. We're not beggars. Lowell isn't beggars, and the Upper Merrimack Street District of the Acre, they're not beggars either. I do not feel that the board needs to approach this applicant as if Lowell's an ugly old maid who'd better take the best offer that's given. We can hold out. A second point I'd like to make, I could not possibly express my thoughts about the Market Street facade nearly as well as Maxine, much less nearly as well as Jane Jacobs. I think the point was made very clearly, was made very effectively. That is 370 feet of, well, it's prettier now. I should take a moment and acknowledge the progress that has been made. I like the Merrimack Street facade on this. It's nice. That's not just the part that comes before but. That's some nice design. And even on the Market Street side, they've made it prettier. There's no question about that. It's prettier than last time. But I'd like you gentlemen to think about, and this has been done in Lowell at one time, and it's been done in a lot of cities. In a commercial district where there's no businesses in the storefront and there's a lot of vacancy there, you'll sometimes see programs to display art in the windows or do some kind of displays or paint them or paint some kind of picture on the window to kind of hide and disguise how vacant it is, and it makes them look better. But there's still no people coming in and out. Those properties still aren't contributing at all to vitality. It's still empty sidewalks in front of them without people because there's no reason for anybody to be going in and out. This nicely, I will acknowledge, this nicely designed facade along Merrimack Street is designed to be that right from the beginning and to never, at least when they put the fake little art installations in storefronts, the hope is that someday there'll be something going in there that will have people coming in and out. The plan is for there never to be anything there that will have people come in and out. It'll be 370 more, admittedly more attractive blank space. That is absolutely not what the neighborhood needs. And one final point, I heard the statement made before in estimating the real traffic demand, the real parking demand being generated by this, and citing the on-campus dorms and the percent of students who have cars in the on-campus dorms as being the best numbers. I think you should question that assumption a lot. It seems fairly obvious to me that on-campus students are going to bring fewer cars than off-campus students. Some of them are on campus and planning on being right there at the school, and some of them are off campus. It seems clear to me there will be more parking demand from off campus. I'm going to ask you gentlemen to do, frankly, what I wish we'd done. My motion was wrong. I'm going to ask you tonight to deny this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Brian Mead, 80 Elliott Drive, Lowell, Mass. I'm here tonight to speak against the proposed 466-bed dorm in the acre. My two major concerns being both parking and the massive size and scale of the proposed building. These concerns actually go hand in hand. One causes the other. That said, I don't support advocating for sufficient parking to make the plan feasible. In fact, the only way to make this project work for both the acre and the applicant is to allow little or no parking on the site at all. Let me explain. Acre residents fear that students and their guests will park on the street, taking up precious spots they currently utilize. To prevent this from happening, the city imposes a minimum parking requirement regulation, forcing the applicant to provide sufficient off-street parking. In this case, 2 levels of parking with 188 spots. This well-meaning regulation, unfortunately, won't stop people from parking on the street because people are human, and if it's more convenient to park on the street than in the garage, that's what they're going to do, tenants or visitors alike. The applicant's plan for overflow parking in the church lot sounds nice, but isn't practical, especially when the church needs parking for its own purposes. I believe the applicant has good intentions, but without a systematic change in neighborhood parking policy, it falls short. The minimum parking requirement regulation has additional consequences that negatively affect both the applicant and the acre. Forcing the applicant to build 2 stories of parking drives up both the cost and height of the structure. This greatly increases construction costs and will be passed on to the renters. The added cost of the garage will be baked into every tenant's lease, causing higher rents for all. Higher rents at this site could effectively send a signal to other acre landlords to raise their rents in kind. Moreover, a 7-story monolith does not fit the historic size and scale of the acre neighborhood. This structure disrespects the acre by turning its back to Market Street, by not having ground floor shops or public access to activate the street. Some intermittent artwork isn't enough. It's going to be much harder to knit Market Street back together if this project gets approved as is. Mandating parking also increases congestion for the rest of us. Mixing hundreds of more cars in our streets makes little sense as official city policy. To prevent this, I propose a parking preservation plan where the city would grant a set number of parking permits for current acre residents to utilize for on-street parking. Few, if any, permits would be set aside for the applicant. The applicant would benefit by not having to build the expensive garage, thus reducing costs. These savings would be passed on to tenants, lessening the likelihood of increased rents throughout the acre. It would also give the applicant more of a competitive advantage with UMass Lowell in providing low-cost student housing. The size of the building could also be substantially reduced by not having to build the garage, and the number of beds needed to make a profit could be reduced. More ground floor shops could be incorporated into the design on both Merrimack Street and Market Streets, providing more opportunities for acre residents to open a business or find a job. This would increase commercial tax revenue for the city and could still be built with union labor. My recommendation is to deny or postpone this project from moving forward to give the city a little time to get our regulations in order. The city should get rid of the bad regulation, minimum parking requirements in this part of the acre, and create a new good regulation, a parking preservation permit plan to incentivize an appropriately sized building that the acre deserves, without an onslaught of cars in their historic neighborhood. There are many more parcels ripe for development on Upper Merrimack Street and Market Street. It's not fair to expect acre residents and activists to rise up and challenge deep-pocketed developers every time a new proposal comes along. Just last week, the City Council passed Councilor Leahy's motion to begin discussing a residential parking program throughout the city. The next step is to get the council to eliminate parking requirements in this area to achieve better outcomes. Get this wrong, and the acre will be stuck with a large-scale, less-than-perfect development for generations to come. Get this right, and this planning board and this city council would be known as catalysts in creating a new standard for development in the acre. Generations of Lowellians would be forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Patty Coffey. I live at 287 Dutton Street in the Acre neighborhood. I'm a member of the Acre Neighborhood Group. And for full disclosure, I also work at UMass Lowell as the Assistant Director of Community and Government Relations. These comments tonight are my own. I'm not speaking on behalf of the university. So since last year, I've been attending meetings regarding this proposal. I've attended every planning board meeting, with the exception of one that I did watch on TV. I've also attended the community meetings that were held last year and hosted by the Acre Neighborhood Group, and another meeting hosted by the credit union. I truly respect this process that has allowed the time for the public to ask questions, share opinions, and express support or opposition to this project. Thank you for that. I'm speaking tonight to express my opposition to this project. First and foremost, I would ask if this is a needed development in the city. And also, does the neighborhood need this development? I don't believe another private dorm is needed in the city, especially when we can see the real data right now. There's a private dorm across the street from Lowell High School that is barely 50% full, and their occupancy is not 100% students, as was stated when they applied for permitting as a private dorm. Thus, they are no longer a private dorm. When I think of the Acre, I think of the businesses that have been here for more than 50 years. I think of the residents, community groups, nonprofits that work together very often to make improvements to that area, from physical improvements to strengthening social networks. Second, and just as important, the location is all wrong for this. I drive by the site almost every day, and what I see is cars lining the Market Street side on both sides of the street. My guess is that these cars belong to residents and/or visitors to the apartments across the street, or maybe they are visiting businesses in the area. And also every day, I see traffic congestion on that whole block of Merrimack, Market, and Cabot. Every day. Imagine students, student visitors, they're driving, food delivery, buses attempting to pick up and drop off students. This area is far too dense for this project. I don't believe that the applicant meets all of the minimum requirements of Section 7.8 of the zoning required, of Section 7.8 or the zoning required for parking. It is unclear to me what they have for staffing. It is unclear to me what they are providing for parking for their staff. It is unclear to me what parking is needed for their commercial space, art space, and other amenities on the first floor. Also, their application states that they have 188 parking spaces on site, but 233 is required. I know they have 50 additional spaces they might lease from the city, but does that really meet the zoning requirements? I live about the same distance away from the AOC garage. It is a 10 to 13 minute walk. Is that and sometimes 15 minutes. Is that reasonable to expect residents to park that far away from where they live? This project does not complement the Acre neighborhood. This project does not benefit the Acre neighborhood in any way. This project does not provide an improvement to the Acre either by services, aesthetic, or economic impact. I ask you tonight to please reject this proposal and vote it down, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Chairman and board members. My name is Suzanne Frechette. For the record, I'm not related to Jerry. I'm here to speak a little differently, perhaps, than some of the folks that have spoken before me. They have the facts. They can cite the specifics of the planning board. I was a longtime Acre resident. I grew up on Common Avenue, not far from the previous speaker. I remember the days when we had small businesses, we had families, we had neighborhoods, and yes, it did change. We lost some of the neighborhoods, we saw drugs, we saw bad things happening in our neighborhood. A couple of things changed. In 2009, I'm a founding member of Action because through the Coalition for a Better Acre, we started Action. We felt very strongly that the voices of the residents were not being heard. The changes that they wanted to see were not being done. We worked very hard through Action, through David's work, Maxine, many other members, my own grandson. We worked in the amphitheater, we have community gardens, we have art. We have built affordable housing, which is very much needed in this city, far more than student housing, frankly. We know the vacancy rate for rental is probably less than around 2%. It's incredible how hard it is to find an apartment here. That's what we need in the Acre. And the other thing that I would share with you, and I know we talked about how many people are going to talk about parking, but here it is. When I began at CBA in 2009, I had parking about half a block away. I didn't bother. I could park in front of the building. No big deal. Park there all the time. Soon after, things began to change. We saw private development of a dorm. We saw more and more students. Not only could I not park on the street, we could no longer have visitors on the street. We couldn't have board meeting during the day. No parking whatsoever. We did a parking study for Unity Place when it was built. Prior to when it was built. And we estimated there were X amount of parking spots on the street. The reality was, by the time we built it, no longer there. Growing up in the Acre, I drive by those same locations as Patty mentioned. I see the traffic, I see the lack of parking. When I go to visit folks in North Common where I grew up, if I'm lucky I find a parking spot. Many of them now are metered. So can you imagine living in North Common, you don't have enough parking already, and if you come home during the day, you have to put money in a meter to go in your own home. That's ridiculous. This dorm does not meet the needs of the neighborhood. It provides students who are transient, are not committed to the neighborhood, do not provide benefit to the neighborhood, and yes, some of them will go to local businesses, but it will not add value. I ask that you deny this permit, do not grant an extension, deny it outright, allow us time to bring together parties to make a better development for the site. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. My name is Larry Siegel. I reside at 20 Misty Meadow Lane in Windham, New Hampshire. And while I do not live in the city of Lowell, I have spent the last 32 years of my life serving the university and feeling like a very proud member of the Lowell community. I thank you for the opportunity to participate again in tonight's hearing. UMass Lowell truly values our role as a community partner, working with our neighbors, especially in the Acre, the city, the local businesses, to advance economic revitalization and community development. As you know, the university carefully and accurately models future enrollment and housing demand in order to effectively manage our operations and meet the needs of our students. When we have determined that additional housing is needed to support our students, we have employed a wide range of approaches to address those needs. Notable among them is Riverview Suites, the only active public-private partnership dormitory associated with a public higher education institution in Massachusetts. This planning board helped ensure the success of Riverview Suites by wisely requiring that a clear affiliation with the university needed to take advantage of well-established models for protecting the safety and security of student residents and minimizing the problems at large that large concentrations of poorly supervised students can cause in their neighborhoods. We firmly believe that this partnership, as well as the thoughtful market analysis that preceded it, were the reasons for the success of that project. Notably, most of the successful projects this developer and their management company have at other campuses enjoy similar partnerships with their host institution because they met a mutually defined need for student housing. There is, however, no such need for new housing, now or in the foreseeable future, and simply no need for this project. Even if all the additional students we anticipate adding over the coming years wanted local housing, we could readily meet their needs on campus. We'd like to attempt to clarify and simplify the continued misrepresentation and interpretation of the relationship between student enrollment and housing demand. The fact that the university intends to plateau its enrollment at 19,000 students absolutely does not mean there are 14,000 students looking for local off-campus housing, as the developer suggests in the materials recently submitted to the board. Over 3,000 of those 19,000 are taking online executive education or continuing education courses, or are not enrolled at the university and take part-time certificate programs. None of these students are looking for student housing. Many of them never even set foot on campus and live overseas or across the country. Nearly 4,000 students will be degree-seeking graduate students. Many of these students are older and living with their own families in conventional apartments and homes in the greater Lowell area. Others, including international students, seek the least expensive possible off-campus housing because their financial circumstances require them to minimize housing expenses. Only a tiny fraction of graduate students are looking for traditional student housing on campus or in projects like Edge Merrimack or this proposed dormitory. Those that do are often resident advisors who live on campus free of charge. Of the 12,000 undergraduates, 5,000 will continue to be housed on campus. We know that 35 to 40% of our students, or 4,000 to 5,000, will live at homes with their family and commute to campus. They do so primarily to save money on housing costs so they can afford to complete their degrees and minimize their debt. Their families simply do not have the discretionary income to pay for this type of housing. The remaining 2,000 to 3,000 students in question rent apartments near campus. However, these units already exist, and the students who choose this option generally do so to save money relative to on-campus housing costs, or because they are upper-class students who no longer want to live in anything that feels like a dormitory, whether on or off campus. It is highly unlikely that almost 1 out of every 4 of those 2,000 students left would choose to live instead in a private dormitory building on Upper Merrimack Street. The absence of need and lack of partnership with the university has likely contributed to the struggles that the Edge Merrimack project has had in filling its beds, despite rosy optimism from its proponents when it was being permitted. If a need for additional 400 beds or more housing existed, UMass Lowell would be considering housing options for suitable facilities with proper security and management to protect our students and their neighbors. The university has added 3,000 beds since 2009, when Section 7.8 related to private dormitories was enacted, 1/3 of which pays taxes to the city. UMass Lowell presently manages an inventory of nearly 5,000 student beds, about 20% of which are taxable. If the proposed project cannibalizes occupancy from on-campus dormitories, as the proponent has implied, they may do so to satisfy their investors. If there is no need for off-campus housing, the university would be forced to terminate those very leases that pay taxes to the city, leaving a glut of vacant housing near campus, further suppressing demand. Using strategies we have successfully employed when demand warranted it, we have had the ability to increase our housing inventory by more than the capacity of the proposed building without construction or other significant investment. Even if more beds were needed, we would build housing using appropriate public construction procurement processes and 100% prevailing wage labor. However, no such need exists today or in the foreseeable future. The project proponents have argued that if the demand doesn't materialize, they can simply lower rents to draw students away from on-campus housing. It is difficult to imagine that they could lower the rents enough to offset the structural imbalance between the amount of financial aid that is available for on-campus resident students and the amount that federal financial aid formulas allow the university to calculate for off-campus student residents. On-campus resident students qualify for almost $6,000 more in financial aid than off-campus residents. The off-campus financial aid rates are established based on prevailing average market costs for off-campus housing paid by our students. Because students who choose to live off-campus often seek the least costly options, it is a self-reinforcing cycle that financial aid available to off-campus residents will continue to be considerably lower than what is calculated for on-campus residents. This development would have to charge students only $200 to $500 per month in order to offset this disparity, which seems financially infeasible. Additionally, students and their families would have to give up the academic support, safety and security, and convenience of on-campus living.
Excuse me, sir. Sure, okay? Call the ambulance? Oh. Okay. Check them out, then we'll. Okay. Let them come and check them out.
Take it all over this way.
Is she okay?
He has partial seizure disorder.
Mr. Siegel, if you come back up, I'm sorry about the interruption, but obviously, health prevails.
There are things that are more important than...
Absolutely, sir. Thank you for your understanding.
The off-campus financial aid rates are established based on prevailing average market costs for off-campus housing paid by our students. Because students who choose to live off-campus often seek the least costly options available, it is a self-reinforcing cycle that financial aid available to off-campus residents will continue to be considerably lower than what is calculated for on-campus residents. This development would have to charge students only $200 to $500 per month in order to offset this disparity, which seems financially infeasible. Additionally, students and their families will have to give up the academic support, safety and security, and convenience of on-campus living, so the developer would likely need to charge even less to be competitive. Before Edge Merrimack was constructed, Capstone, one of the nation's largest developers of private student housing, obtained the rights to this very site and performed due diligence. When they learned that the university did not have a need for more housing and discovered the discrepancies in financial aid, they abandoned the project. Capstone also cited transportation challenges and limited on-site parking, both of which are issues for this proposal as well. After this highly experienced developer dropped the project, the less experienced company constructed Edge and has had struggles to fill beds with very few students being residents. Additionally, on-campus housing has expanded by over 700 beds after that through a recent acquisition, since Capstone determined there was no viable market for an unaffiliated private dormitory. We do not presently require students to live on campus as many other universities do. That could change if we determine that student safety and security that we are entrusted to provide are not being adequately protected in a large-scale private housing marketed as a dormitory serving our institution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My name is Sidney Liang. I live on 23 Phillips Street on the acre. I've been a Lowell resident for over 30 years now, and mostly I live right in the acre, Broadway, School Street, and Cross Street. So I'm here today just because 14 years ago we bought a house on Phillips Street, and it was a really quiet neighborhood, and we loved to live there, and it's just a little bit off of School Street. And about five years ago, we have a developer that came in and bought one of the house there and turned it into a student dorm or housing. And so he was nice and all, came in, very nice, and everything else is really good. And then we did not come to speak, or I did not come here to speak against it, because it was really nice proposed. Everything was through with the requirements and everything else. And so later on, when the student came in, so we talk about the parking. Yes, parking was a nightmare for me, especially Thursday and Friday, Saturday night. It started from 10 up to 2 o'clock, and the parking was jammed there. I mean, whatever requirement it was, it never happened to us. And you're talking about economic development or the impact of it. I live in the acre, and my daughters, they went to the Merklin School just right off Salem and Market Street right there. And early morning and also afternoon, 2 or 3 o'clock, that place is jam-packed. And the transportation, traffic, and everything else right there is not suitable for this kind of, dorm or building that they intended to do. And I don't have to say about parking. I know there's a requirement and people can fulfill the requirements and stuff like that, but trust me, you can go and live around my neighborhood for a week and you'll find out. The reason I'm here also is that, I told my daughter that I would speak, and I told my daughter that I would speak up because this is our home. The acre might not be one of the richest neighborhoods in the city, but through action and other people, we're working on it. The Working City Challenge, CBAs, and our community group, we're working to make Acre a better place. And one thing that I don't really want to see is basically a dormitory for students there. My kid used to walk the street, like late afternoon when they all get together. How do you expect 14-year-old girls walk the street when there's party or yelling or, a gathering going on? So I can guarantee you that will happen at this new building. I can guarantee you the street parking will be just jam-packed, just like the one next to my house. It's not just one house that's right now on that street. It's 3 houses that's basically having students there. And, one of the things people was talking about also is that the impact, the growth that'll come, to the acre area. While all I want to do is having a good night's sleep as a resident. You're talking about the stress of having to deal with these issues, whether it's parking, whether it's the yelling in the middle of the night, or all those kind of things. And I'm speaking here because I want to live in the acre for a while longer, and I don't want the acre to turn into a competition between this building and that building. And you're talking about displacement, and the intent not to displace people. I has 2 neighbors that really, she was born and lived in that house on my street. Her name was Alice. She lives there and she has this plot right in the front, and we used to live it's one big happy street. So now she's no longer there. She can't. I know she doesn't want to speak. She just left a couple of years ago. And we're a poor neighborhood. Yeah, of course, but we're working on it. And one of the reasons is that a lot of people don't come out and speak against these kind of things. Because how are we going to come out and speak? How is that going to make a difference? Look at the amount of money they're putting onto it. The drawing, the planning, and everything else. All I can tell you is that after 5 years ago, my life turned upside down just because, Friday, Saturday, or Thursday night, there's always stuff going on. Sometimes it's just a couple hours. Sometimes all you need to do is just, have a little relaxation and stuff like that. My backyard turned into a beer can, a garage. That's basically, stuff going on. And also, I know people don't talk about the fire department or the police department. How do you expect me to keep calling the police when stuff going on, and let's say at the dome or whatever that's going on? That's just like a waste of the city's resources to just deal with this kind of stuff. But anyway, I don't want to, I'm just speaking against this as a resident, just because I've learned it, I've lived it. I know the money's going into it. You're talking about the taxes, the property, and how much is coming in and how much is going to be, growing the community. All I want to see is the acre neighborhood, being growing, and, with the help of the community, with the help of the residents, not outsiders coming in and telling us what we need and what we don't need, and what it looks like, what's supposed to, not to look like. It's just because that once you put a building there, there's no turning back. And the resident, what they do when we're poor, when we're not, the income's not there, the education not there, and everything else is not there, what we do, we move out. And that's what happened at my street, and then I can guarantee you that's what's going to happen, around the area as well. I'm speaking from experience, and I know that, especially the Merklin School, a lot of people go through there all the time, and the parking, we used to park on Salem and Market Street just to wait for our kids. And I don't know how this is going to impact that. And I know the minimum of the requirements all there, but I'm just talking about my frustration with what's going on about, making acre better, but not making better, people talking about, throughout the package, talking about turning Lowell into the college town. But please don't turn the acre into a college neighborhood where, we are the resident, we want to live there as well, too. But at the same time, what I've encountered or experienced is not working out too good for me and my family and most of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. It's getting to be a late night, so I appreciate your patience. and everybody's patience this evening. My name's Adam Bakey. I live on Jeunesse Street here in Lowell, but I'm actually here speaking as the Director of Campus Planning for UMass Lowell. And I appreciate the opportunity to address this proposed development. First off, I'd like to just acknowledge that UMass Lowell has supported many worthy projects that have improved the neighborhoods around our campuses, including private housing, commercial and mixed-use developments. And as you know, we've even provided testimony in favor of some of these projects to this board. We've also really always been very proud of our relationship with the Jeanne d'Arc Credit Union, and we've admired its willingness to invest in Lowell, even when others might not, and really their commitment to the betterment of our neighborhoods, the city, and frankly, the UMass campuses as well. And, you know, the proponents have described this project in many very positive ways. There are a lot of things that were said tonight that sound very appealing. Unfortunately, most of them are ultimately dependent on the fundamental question of whether there's really demand for the project, whether there really will be the kind of student occupancy that they're describing. I mean, almost all of the benefits that we described, a lot of the concerns that have been raised also share that reflection about whether there will be student demand or not. And unfortunately, it really is our impression that this project does not address an actual need. And in fact, I think, you know, there was some question about whether the board has the ability to evaluate that, and I think it's pretty clear that section 11.3.2 of the criteria for special permits, the very first criterion that you need to consider is whether there is a social, economic, or community needs which are served by the proposal. And it actually says you shall consider that. So I think there's really no question that the issue of need is very much germane to your authority. Now, the proponents have attempted to address that by supplying a market demand letter that appears to, on its face, justify their optimism. Unfortunately, in our opinion, it's a fairly superficial analysis of the market. It overestimates demand in much the same way that the applicants themselves have by confusing or confounding the question of enrollment versus actual housing demand and not taking into account the fact that a substantial proportion of those enrollment numbers are students who are enrolled in online courses, continuing education courses, professional development courses, graduate students, commuter students, or others that have no interest in local housing, on campus or off, as Larry has detailed in more detail. On the other hand, the same report significantly underestimates the supply of housing that already exists in the market, because it appears to really only look at the large apartment complexes. Now, that's understandable because the people who prepared it didn't appear to have a tremendous depth of understanding of the Lowell market. And the vast majority of the off-campus student housing in Lowell, as you all well know, particularly Jerry living in the Pawtuckaville neighborhood that has a lot of them, are in smaller multifamily buildings near the campus. That's where the vast majority of off-campus students live, and that was not considered at all in the demand analysis, or in the supply side of their market analysis. So given the lack of actual demand that we have carefully documented, we anticipate that there's probably one of three potential outcomes for this project, none of which are really desirable ultimately for the neighborhood. There is certainly the possibility that we could have an enormous, partially or largely vacant building, similar to Edge Merrimack, which would be a troubling imposition on the neighborhood. On the other hand, as the developer stated at the previous hearing in February, they might be willing to lower rents and compete in the market, compete with on-campus, compete with off-campus, or whoever, as much as needed to fill the building and offset the financial aid disparity that Larry described. Presumably, in order to do that, they would also have to probably lower any tenant screening procedures and standards that they would have. And that would result in a concentration of students who are attracted by cheap rent and relaxed oversight. This is essentially the model that used to be used by the fraternities all around the Pawtuckaville neighborhood until the city and the university got together and really cracked down on that issue and solved all of the problems that were the result of that approach to student housing off campus. And such an approach would also very likely place an undue burden on the Lowell Fire and Police Departments due to excessive false alarms, nuisance calls, and serious public safety issues. More likely, as has wisely been anticipated by this board, the developer will return looking for permission to repurpose the property as a conventional apartment building. But at that point, it will have insufficient parking and it won't have complied with the density, the open space, or other zoning requirements that would have applied to an apartment building had it been permitted that way from the start. And because the building will already exist, it would be very difficult, understandably, for the board to say, no, you have to leave the building vacant. So to avoid all of those, or any of those potential undesirable outcomes, we would strongly encourage the planning board to reject this project as proposed. And we recommend that the board utilize the discretion that's granted to you in considering a special permit to apply the zoning requirements for a conventional apartment building to this project preemptively. It's notable that the project doesn't actually even comply with the far more lenient minimum zoning requirements for a private dormitory, despite the proponent's most recent narrative claiming that they do. The narrative remains a bit ambiguous. Perhaps they do now, but it's been consistently ambiguous about whether they really will provide the 24/7 on-site security guard at all times when the building is occupied, as is required, because they've consistently been suggesting that cameras and access controls and other tools are an adequate substitute for that active security presence. Because there is no academic building that meets the definition in 7.8.3D of an academic building as the city of Lowell has defined it, the project is required to provide its own shuttle bus, not rely on the fact that the LRTA might move their bus stop a little closer or that the university's shuttle buses drive by. But it's required under the zoning to provide its own shuttle service between the property and the campus. Contrary to what the proponents have asserted, the university shuttle buses also do not stop at LRTA bus stops. And they also cannot serve a single private off-campus student housing facility without offering the same service to every other private off-campus student housing facility, which is obviously infeasible and problematic for liability reasons as well as practical ones. So, in addition, it seems that this project does not actually comply with the city's parking requirements. Yes, they've counted the number of spaces in excess of the number that they've calculated as required, but in order to achieve the total number that exceeds the minimum, as others have begun to point out this evening, they need to rely on the remote parking in the AOT garage. And as the staff here pointed out, the AOT garage is indeed more than 1,500 feet from the nearest entrance to the project, despite the argument that the corner of the property that the AOT garage happens to sit on might be just under. The building itself, as the planning staff has pointed out, which is the factor that they actually use, is more than 1,500 feet away, which would require that the proponents either seek a variance under section 6.1.6.5 or both a special permit and a variance under 6.1.6.6. And I don't believe either one of those has been advertised at this point. And I would strongly caution, wearing my former hat, that the blanket granting of any other relief as might be required is a potentially dangerous abdication of your authority. In addition, there was the possibility that the church parking might be the alternative substitute, but as has also been pointed out this evening, it is too far away to meet the requirements of 6.1.6.1 of the zoning code without a variance. So really, no matter which approach you choose to take, there is a variance that would be required for parking. And furthermore, the proponent has repeatedly this evening noted that the on-campus parking demand is 30%, and that's absolutely a true statement. The proportion of on-campus student residents that bring a car and need parking is 30%. But the very next line in the same table, in the same report where they pulled that information, says that the off-campus student housing demand for parking for students who live off-campus is 61%. I suspect this project is going to be somewhere in between because of its proximity to campus. I don't think it will be at 61%, but it will be more than 30% without question. So it's really, frankly, hard to believe that the project proponents can actually build the structured parking, pay union wages on whatever percentage of the work they're going to offer to the unions, add retail, art galleries, finance new construction, lower the rents to offset a significant disparity in financial aid relative to on-campus housing, address rapidly rising interest rates and construction cost escalation, and still generate sufficient returns for their investors and lenders. But I have to assume, if they're here, that they think they can. So if there's that much profit in the project to do all of those things, perhaps it would be more appropriate for them to redesign the project as a conforming apartment building that's appropriately scaled for the existing neighborhood and works with the neighborhood on that design. Because we value our relationship with the neighborhoods surrounding the campus and the safety of our students, we're very concerned about large concentrations of potentially poorly supervised students in locations which would be detrimental to well-established communities. While UMass Lowell is unable to support the proposal before you this evening, we remain fully committed to working with the property owner, the neighborhood, and all interested parties in redeveloping this important parcel of land into something that would benefit the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak? Anybody else want to speak at this time? If not, I think I've been submitted 2 letters. Let me take a look here. I got 1 letter from KC Realty Trust. The board members, as a trustee of the building located at 463 Merrimack Street, I would like to be recorded as opposed to this project. KC Realty Trust has been located at 463 Merrimack Street for about 40 years, providing residential and commercial rentals. One of our biggest problems is providing parking for our tenants, and this project will only make the problem worse. The project also is not in the best interest of the neighborhood, with over 250 students constantly moving in and out, creating an unstable atmosphere in our community. I further believe as student housing, there is not a big demand, as stated by the university, thus creating for the developers the need to find non-university tenants in order to meet the financial needs of the project. In closing, I believe this project, if allowed, will completely change the stability of the surrounding neighborhood, as well as removing existing drastically needed parking for existing residents and businesses. Frank King, trustee, KC Realty Trust. P.S. Recently, I was approached on the former Lowell 5 student housing project as possible being placed on the for sale market, as it is unable to get students to fill the space. Again, signed by Mr. King. I think we had another letter submitted in opposition. Was, good evening, members of the planning board. For the record, my name is Rita Mercier, 221 Burnham Road, Lowell. I come before you this evening in no official capacity, only as a concerned resident, specifically for the residents in the acre section of the city of Lowell. The sector of the city that is densely populated, congested, and has less on-street parking than any other place else. Before you is revised plan to build a 466-bed private dormitory at 650 Merrimack Street. Really? Question mark. Does this city actually need another dorm? Question mark. But the revised plans call for an additional 50 spaces in the AR garage. The Edge Merrimack former Fed Street Church site built that 414-bed private dorm. That's even closer to the AR garage and can't even fill that space. And you think the students will walk even further to your dorm? Be serious. Human nature would tell you to choose the closest place to park because people tend to go for the easiest way out. That's why Amazon.com is making it, because people like the comfort and do not like to be inconvenienced. People tend to cut corners. People will be in long-standing residential, parking in long-standing residential spots. Good luck with that. That's what I am trying to stop. Not jobs. I am not here to stop jobs, just the long-term effect that will happen after the fact. To fill this chamber with union members, to stack the deck in FWI's favor was a plot to gain permits. Who among us doesn't know the need for union jobs? I know firsthand. I lived it. My husband was president of Local 39 Painters in allied trade for 21 years. Work is seasonal, work is scarce. I also am a union member of Local 525. I know the members need jobs. I looked around the room at the last meeting to see if WFI representation brought along puppies and babies or veterans to further their cause. We learned from the last planning board meeting that they would add another level to the 6-story structure to accommodate an extra level of parking. along with a second option to have 5 stories of housing and 2 stories of parking. All of this is still uncertain. No one knows what's going on with a huge building that might never be filled. So to me, it's no wonder the Lowell Housing Authority is on board. They know the plans and could anticipate that this building could head their way. And may I remind you, taken off the tax roll and more services provided. If UMass Lowell already, as UMass Lowell already stated, they already have enough housing to meet its students' needs. If this proposal passes, you are putting this mammoth atrocity, this horrific burden on the most vulnerable people who live in our extreme dense neighborhood, who deserve some semblance of comfort and respect, not harm. I ask you to put your site on the plan and reject their approval and permit yourself to save a neighborhood from confusion and congestion. Think of the effects of what would be left when all else fails. The bottom line is that this project is too big for the very dense neighborhood. Please follow the proposal conditions such as was agreed to on the Wellman Street condo buildings. Thank you for allowing me to voice my concerns. Again, that was signed by Rita Mercier. Okay. Anybody else want to speak further? Okay, if not, at this point in time, I'll turn it over to any questions of the board members.
Mr. Chairman, could I just make one comment before you go any further? It was stated earlier that this was a type of planned obsolescence of this lot by the current owner, the John Doe Credit Union, when in fact the credit union went forward and purchased properties on this lot to clean up the site, properties such as the White Eagle Cafe. So they went ahead and cleaned this lot up here so that they could market and sell it. And it was up to them. They found this developer to build this, which they thought was the best use of this property here, that would fit in with the master plan, that would connect the university with the downtown on this site. It doesn't have a negative impact on city services. It doesn't have a negative impact on schools. And it would fill this area with new faces, a catalyst to the economy there, and what we would have here is a positive economic impact on the city.
Thank you. So, again, I'll turn over to any board members have any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Okay. I have some general comments, and then I have some very specific comments. First, I want to say that this is not about the John Doe Credit Union. They're a great corporate citizen, but other than being the seller of the property, they really don't have a role in this. This is about the development itself. Secondly, you, Attorney Theodoro, referred us to a Steve Jonkus interview on LTC in an email the other day. And in his discussion of the background of this project, he suggested that this was not the first choice and not the second choice, and maybe not even the third choice. And he mentioned one of the possibilities, which I believe was the second possibility, was an auto parts store and a dollar store, and he said that it did not, they felt that it didn't bring enough jobs. Well, I would expect that the union dorm would result in less jobs than those types of developments would, so I question that argument. The Federal Reserve Working Cities Challenge was mentioned, i.e. student housing with disposable income, the link to UMass Lowell downtown without impacting neighborhood character. I do not agree that this goal is best served by this project. The City of Lowell showed a great deal of patience with the Hamilton Canal Innovation District and ultimately seem to be getting the kinds of development that they want. And I think similar patience would be appropriate for this site as well. The construction jobs are a very good thing, but they will be temporary. A year, year and a half, the project will be here forever. And the viability of the project is a concern. And while certainly it's not a specific criteria for approval, it remains a concern. Once built, the building will be here forever. On some specific issues related to site plan approval, and that is section 7.8, the private dormitories. 7.8.3, number one, requires a minimum of one on-site security guard at all time. Your narrative states 24-hour security presence provided by a combination of full-time employees on site and electronic access control. I don't read that as being a commitment to do, that, and anything less than a 24/7 security guard, not other employees, does not meet 7.8. 7.8.3 states that if a student must walk further than 2,000 lineal feet from the nearest campus academic building, the owner must provide a regular shuttle bus service. It is, I think the university knows what an academic building is within their organization, and there is no such building within the 2,000 feet. You have not planned on providing a shuttle, and, it's also been clear that UMass Lowell cannot and will not accommodate that for various reasons. I find that an email that was sent by you, Mr. Theodore, Attorney Theodoro, this morning at 10:30 was somewhat deceptive, and as such, I kind of resent it. And that email stated that, quote, "We have partnered with the LRTA," and goes on to state about a new route that was being shown.
That was in the email. That was not what I wrote.
The way the
I did
email
not,
was...
wait a minute, Mr. Snetsky. You used that comment, it was misleading. I did not write, that was in the content of what was sent and not what I wrote.
Okay, but...
So I'd like you to clarify that for me.
Okay, if one read that and didn't dig deeper into the link that was attached to it, one might think that the "we" was the union project. And I want to be quite clear that it was not.
That was not the case, and that was not the intent of that. It was in the four corners of the document.
If you felt that I'm sorry if you take objection to that.
I do.
When
you tell me that I was misleading, I do. I take...
Well, to me, the manner in which it presented, I don't think that was necessarily your intent, but when I read it until I actually, drilled into the link and saw that that was a statement by the university, I was reading an email that came from you that it said "we." I interpreted it, like I say, upon further investigation, I agree. It was the university. But that, nonetheless, I still believe that a shuttle service is required if this project is to go forward. Regarding parking, section 6.1, you've told us before that the parking is provided as an additional cost and not as part of the base rent. Am I correct in that statement?
That is correct.
Okay. There's no requirement nor incentive for your residents to purchase it. I believe that this will lead to student residents seeking on-street parking and further exacerbating parking issues in the neighborhood. 6.1 requires that the publicly owned off-site parking used to satisfy the requirements be within 1,500 feet. The AOT garage is over 1,600 feet based on the standard of measurement that has been used by the city of Lowell for all such permitting that has come before us. So, I think that is the standard by which we have to judge this. Because we have enforced that on other applicants that have come before us as well. And that being the case, the distance of it, I question how much use your residents would make of it. I think it's, a rather excessive amount of distance to be viable. In addition, I question the availability and the viability of the parking spaces along Father Morrisette Boulevard. I believe that they're taking them away from the neighborhood for use both for residential and commercial use. and I think that has a negative impact. In regards to, so that, those issues come up under the site plan approval. Under the special permit approval, section 11.3.2 criteria, B, neighborhood character. I don't believe that this meets the stated goal to, quote, protect and enhance character of the existing neighborhood. There's very limited retail, in my opinion, in terms of the size of the project, and I believe that there is limited connection to the neighborhood, all of which are items which are cited in that section of the special permit criteria. In addition, Section D, traffic and parking. The specific question is, how does the project address traffic flow and safety, including parking and loading? And other than a dedicated loading zone within the building for moving and facilities deliveries, I see no other for as much as a pizza delivery or a UPS delivery or a FedEx delivery or even an Uber ride, although I've seen some comment in the staff comments that there's been some discussion of the Uber ride. But, you know, these students, they're going to order a pizza. Where is that pizza delivery going to park? It's going to exacerbate traffic issues in the neighborhood. That section also says, does the project provide adequate parking for visitors? I see no provision whatsoever for visitors in your proposal. And will the project impact an area with significant on-street parking demand? I believe it will. You know, and then what about the businesses that are in the area? The bars, the restaurants, the shops, they're going to be negatively impacted. So in summation, I believe that this project presents many challenges that lead me to conclude that it does not adequately conform to the criteria for approval for the City of Lowell, and as such, it's not a fit for the neighborhood and the city in general, and therefore I cannot support this project.
I'm going to have, Mr. Fedeli would like
Nope.
to address.
No. Board members are all going to make comments. We're not going to do a debate. When you people all spoke, we gave you the latitude. He can comment when we're done speaking, but each board member has a chance to speak like everybody else here this evening had without a rebuttal. Okay? If you want to give a summary at the very end, you may. We've heard this 4 times, so I think we got most of it down pretty good. Okay? We will get to it.
You'll be able to.
Is there a problem with that?
No.
Okay. Is he entitled to have an opinion?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Is he entitled to speak? Thank you. May I continue with the other board members, or is that objectionable?
No, please continue, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other board members like to speak without being interrupted?
I would.
Yes, Mr. Marilovich.
I'm still very concerned about the parking supply for this project, whether it's on-site or off-site. There's a lot of what Mr. Snetsky said were, I was in agreement with. The real thing that really bothers me about this building is its height, its mass, its density. It's not in keeping with the neighborhood. It's a huge building. It's a big monolith with very little activity on the street. You know, the Merrimack Street facade is fine. There's a little bit of activity there and human activity. On Cabot and along, there's nothing on Market Street. I don't care about this little art display. It doesn't have any, sure, you put some artwork in there, but no one's going to be in there. So people, what's the reason for people walking on that side of Market Street? Cabot Street is a real problem. I recall, I'm a patron of G.Dot Credit Union, and I can't tell you the number of times that I wanted to turn left into that parking lot and was held up by the security guard and told me to go around and queue up along the curb facing the other direction I was from. There's no way if that's an entrance, there's no way it's gonna work. I don't see this thing, this project, from what I've read and what I've heard, is gonna comply with 7.8, not currently what has been stated. That's basically my issue, but I tend to not want to support this project at this point in time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In looking at the proposal and really looking at the technical requirements that the applicant must achieve and meet, and especially on a project of this scale, I think it's critical that we adhere to the standards that have been set. And arguably, they're not probably the bar should be a little higher on the standards that we have. But even using the criteria that we have, I think it's been stated by the board members very clearly regarding the 24-hour security. That's a standard that's in there, has to be met. We have testimony, I would say expert testimony from the university in forms of letters that have been submitted over several proposals that you don't meet the distance of an academic building. You have to supply shuttle service, minimum requirement. Therefore, you don't meet those minimum standards. The parking, we've heard that from the beginning. Whether or not you meet the standards, I will say that I think everybody was surprised when you came back with another deck of parking to attempt to meet that criteria. However, you keep insisting that you exceed the parking. We have our standard in which we measure that, and we try to be very practical about that. It's by a traveled way, and it's by the entrance or the exit of a facility. The senior planner has testified here how we apply that measurement. It does not meet that measurement. The parking that you have provided as overflow parking for the church, although not officially in your submittal, but offering that as extra parking, does not meet the distance in which that would apply. There is no visitor parking that is associated with this. And critical with a project of this size and nature and impact, positive impact, negative impact, the impact of this project is under the special permit, and it's very clear. And it was stated by one of the speakers here this evening. Does the project meet social, economic, or community needs which are served by the proposal? I think the critical question is, with this project, is, and what do we have before us for testimony as to the need of this project within the community? The university, in their analysis, has concluded that there is not a need for this project. The applicant's own analysis of housing that's available shows that the most recent privately developed dorm has 54% occupancy rate. Even if the argument is from the applicant that the university is trying to preserve their housing, the concern is that there's not adequate demand and that housing would be taken from other sources. Clearly, there's not excess demand at this point, if that was even the motivation. So I think what I would call the expert testimony before us this evening is, does this meet the measurement of community need? I would say it fails in that measurement. I say it fails in the critical, I believe, minimal requirements of the dormitory zoning for the management plan and the transportation plan. Also, the scale of the building. And this is, and also the chairman pointed out, you did not submit a lighting plan. That's part of the proposal. You did submit a landscaping plan, but if the architect could just engage me here a little bit, and could we put the renderings up, please, the architectural renderings up? You could start with the Merrimack Street, please. The concern is the scale of the building and the mass of the building. In prior development, and even other development within the neighborhood, by having individual mixed-use properties, you actually have breaks in the properties, and you can actually have sight lines that go from one street to the next. This is a solid wall, solid mass in this block. Now, from an architectural standpoint, and really from a design perspective, by having the street trees, I think visually adds a lot to the project. But if I look at the landscaping plan and I look at your architectural drawings to make this pleasing, if you could count out the amount of trees that you have there. How many, sir? 10. Which, are you counting the ones on Cabot Street? Okay, so we won't count that, just Merrimack Street. So you have 9. Okay. On your landscaping plan, you have 6. What we're being asked to approve here this evening is the landscaping plan that was submitted. That's 6. So you have 9 in your photo, in your architectural rendering, which is an attempt to make that look more pleasing, I would assume. Dealt with a lot of architects, that's part of the presentation. Now, if we can look at Cabot Street, please. Now, how many street trees do you have on Cabot Street? On the plan that was submitted, there's 3 on the landscaping plan that we're asked to make a decision on and approve this evening. We've been through this before. We've approved projects, and all of a sudden, the finished product doesn't look like the architectural rendering, and when you looked at drill down with the actual plans that were presented, it doesn't match. Now, if we go to Market Street, now, how many trees do you show on? I couldn't tell you. You have some faded out there. I wasn't sure if those were actual trees or how many trees are you counting that you're in your presentation here for Market Street? So the faded trees are not. Okay. So in the landscaping plan, there's 7 trees. Now, again, from a visual perspective, that's made to look, again, it's visually when you make the presentation here, so it visually brings the scale of the building down slightly. And I think it's important with the development. But the landscaping plan does not incorporate what's here in order for us to make our decision. So certainly, I don't even know if it would be possible to put that many trees in here. And that was a concern as I looked at the landscaping plan. And something of this scale, I don't think we would want to make a decision. And many times on smaller projects, we will delegate that to staff, and that it must meet their approval. And certainly I would agree on some of the species of trees. We're not the experts on that. But certainly how it would look visually is important to this board and is part of the decision process that we have to incorporate here. So from that perspective, what we're looking at really isn't what was submitted for a landscaping plan. And I find that a bit troublesome. Thank you. Thank you. once again, it really comes down to, if we look at the technical requirements, and I'm looking at the analysis that was conducted as to community needs, and I'm looking at your analysis that you provided, and I was concerned. What jumped out to me, and in my own notes as I read this, is you did not take into account the residential units, the rental units that are throughout the city that students are occupying. You selected 23 larger locations, and however, that is a critical part of the housing stock for students, and many of them, it's by choice. It's not because they can't live in the dormitories, it's because they prefer that environment. And so whether or not that would be a pool of students that you would be able to attract into this facility, I think it's not even incorporated in your analysis. So I think that the analysis is somewhat deficient in that respect. So again, I don't think anybody disagrees with the issues that the Edge is having, and that they're not fully occupied, and that 54% occupancy, UMass Lowell has indicated there's not a demand for this. And even if they are trying to protect their housing stock, that tells me that they feel there's not a great demand, and feel that it would be basically cannibalizing other dorms. And if that's even what the applicant feels, then obviously I think they've made it very clear that that's probably a legitimate concern then by the university. So I don't think it meets a community need. And that's a concern because, again, as the chairman said, we certainly are not making this decision based on what could happen to this project, but I certainly think that based on that criteria for that special permit, if in fact it has not been presented to this board this evening in a convincing fashion that there is a need, then I think that we have set the foundation for future failure, and that is a tremendous concern. So, more from a technical aspect, just don't feel that the applicant has sufficiently provided this board, or at least for myself personally, evidence that there is a need at this juncture. And again, a lot has changed since when we first put this on the books as an option. An awful lot has changed. And using this at this time as an option for developing that site, I believe is probably something that has passed. The time has passed at the moment where the need appears to be there. And so that is a concern. Again, we could certainly talk about, I think, the aspects that have not been met, the security plan, the transportation plan. Certainly that could be imposed upon you. I believe that the parking has not been met based on the criteria that is set, and every speaker that has spoken has expressed concern regarding the parking. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. One was started at the very beginning about the parking. So we requested and we indicated that the parking demand, which should be under 6.16, it talks about, so our staff indicated they measure it to the entranceway. And we were informed by the applicant, they measure it to the corner of the lot. Under 6.66 says, for UMU and UMF districts, residential parking requirements may be reduced by as much as 50% if a publicly owned off-street parking facility is located within 500 feet of the entrance, not the corner of the property, to the entrance to the use of the special permit. Okay? Our senior planner and our traffic engineer who's present tonight both indicated that you need for variance. You people disagree that you say you don't need the variance? I think by the fact that you don't meet within the 1,500, it's indicated that you're on the church parking, that you're outside the 400 there. So both of those or outside the purview, and they don't meet the requirement for parking. So that falls under the site plan as well as the special permit. So we get into the special permit aspects. We talk in length for the criteria is for social, economic, and community need. Again, we've heard by several people that there may not be a community need. And one other thing I want to mention about the parking is we had testimony that we have that it's outside the 1,500 feet, and also that people who were present tonight who live and walk in the neighborhood says it takes anywhere from 10 to 13 to 15 minutes to walk there. So when we talk about the parking, it says is 15 feet from the entrance to the use by special permit if the planning board finds that said public parking will accommodate the parking demand. Says the planning board. To me, that means us. Okay? So I have an issue. So I've been saying from day one, you might need a variance on this. You disagree? I'm going by the code. I'm going by the parking thing. I'm going by what we got by traffic engineer, what we got by senior planner, that both said they believe you need a variance. You have not requested that variance, so therefore, I don't think you meet the parking criteria. The community need, I think, has been established by many people who spoke here this evening. They don't believe there's a community need for it. The University of Lowell indicated they didn't believe there's a community need for it. So I'm meeting on the special permits. Criteria 321, community needs, parking, neighborhood character. We've had a lot of talk about the neighborhood character tonight, and a lot of it was negative, saying that it didn't meet the need for neighborhood character. Talks about the neighborhood character, it talks about the, how does the project minimize the visual intrusion of visible parking, storage, and other outdoor areas. We do not have a parking plan, we do not have a lighting plan, which we need under the site plan as well as the special permit. On the special permit, environmental issues, does the project minimize lighting? We do not know. How does the project address traffic flow, including parking and loading? Does the project provide adequate parking for visitors? We have no visitor parking, as I asked earlier, and they said no. They said, we are parking on site, we don't need a variance, we have it all, we don't need it. That's a determination, okay? Will the project impact an area with sufficient on-street parking? The question is, we have people indicating that it's hard to park there up there now. So for those are some of the concerns that I have, and I think, I need to check to see if I had a couple more concerns. It was also indicated that, I believe, for the transportation demand thing, you need a shuttle service. You don't provide a shuttle service. When indicated that you would have a bus stop there, I asked if you have a letter saying the bus would stop there. The reply I had was no. So therefore, you don't have the transportation project need for either a bus stopping there or for the owner to provide the bus shuttle service. As indicated in, let me just check 1 second here. It says, okay, under the privately developed operated dormitories, where buildings are located on number 7.83D. That also talks about the primary of the transportation demand plan that indicates that the owner or the institution provide regular bus service. So it's either upon the owner or UMass Lowell, or any other institution that may be serviced by here. We received not a transportation project that indicated to us that the owner will provide transportation, and the university said they will not. So by under 7.83, we don't have anybody coming forward with the demand management plan that indicates that the owner or the institution will provide the shuttle bus. So I don't think you meet that criteria as well. I know there's a question made about the security, about the property management on site for 24 hours a day, and I think one single site staff member as a community liaison with the direct interaction with the institution, security, and city police. I think we might have that. Resident responsibilities. A minimum one site security guard at all times when the building is occupied. We never received that in the narrative as well. So those are the only comments I have at this time. Mr. Theodoros, I'll let you respond, but we're not going to debate.
Mr. Chairman, with respect to 7.8, the applicant relies on the calculations for the distance for the Ames, which they interpret as an academic building. We have a factual difference of opinion on that, but the applicant relies on that as the basis for not having a shuttle service. Furthermore, I believe it's bus route number 7 that goes along Mermack Street. The bus stop currently is on the other side of Cabot Street, near where there's just outside of Cabot Street where that bus stop is, which continues up and down there, up and down that street. So with respect to the 24-hour guard, they agree to that. They agree to post the 24-hour guard to have a guard on site. The applicant relies on its calculation with respect to the 1,500 feet from the entrance on Merrimack Street to the handicap access ramp. That's a difference, again, of interpretation with DPD, and that is how the applicant makes their calculation with respect to the 1,500 feet that would provide them with those 50 spaces in the AR garage. With respect to need, I know we went around the roundabout way with that, and I understand the position of the board, that we were informed that the need argument is not applicable in this regard. With that being said, I'd ask Mr. Fedeli also to come up here and to address, to fill in the gaps of some of the other concerns that were made.
I agree with everything George was just saying. I think holistically, we collectively have a difference of opinion. It's unfortunate that the university is trying to protect their monopolistic position rather than looking at the needs and the benefits of their own students. It's disingenuous to say that it's an either-or scenario. Either a student takes classes or they take online classes. I challenge the university to tell us if there is one student who is both full-time but yet does take at least one class online. If you look at the common data set that's online, it's clear that there's double counting going on, or there's fuzzy math, or there's math being used in a way to make one position look better than the other. Planning board member Frechette mentioned, the games that get played with a landscaping plan versus architectural. Ours was not intentional. We apologize for that. We could always revise the landscape plan to adjust. If you look, it's also unfortunate for the university to take a position that by default, they are stating they would rather have their own students live in stealth dorms that are not compliant with Section 7.8 than to live in a brand new facility that is compliant with Section 7.8. That is their position, and you guys are buying it.
Okay, can you answer my question? Okay, 7A.
Yes.
City Transportation Demand Management Plan that indicates that the owner or the institution provides shuttle bus service. Can you show me where you did that?
University's own website shows the Ames academic building within 2,000 feet of ours. By the way, there's also 2 other academic buildings in that same vicinity on their own website. Furthermore, On their website, it says how they have reached an agreement with the LRTA for Lowell students to ride that bus. There's also a picture of the LRTA bus stopping right outside our spot. There's also Nick's own writing that says our project will reduce parking. Will reduce traffic. The city, your own city engineer.
Reduce traffic?
Yes, it's right here.
Okay.
Your
Okay,
own
but
city.
no, just ask the question. I didn't understand you.
Your own city engineer is advocating for this. Okay?
You
So
also mentioned the variance.
we have a fundamental disagreement on the
So,
measurement of the distance.
so you're picking what you like, what Nick says, and then you stay away from what you don't like, right?
I'm human.
I understand. You're not.
Human.
You pick your side like lawyers do. You argue your side. I get it.
If
I look
we-
at both sides. You know.
Sure. If we need to go seek a variance for parking, we will gladly do that. Right now, we fundamentally have a difference of opinion in the measurement.
That wouldn't have been difficult to do, would it?
I agree.
Okay, you're the applicant. You put the proposal forward. We don't tell you what to put in hand.
No, but our proposal was incredibly well thought out.
I understand it.
And it was incredibly well thought out with parking. It was incredibly well thought out with working with the city. And it's unfortunate that the responses we're getting from the planning board are not listening to what we wrote in there. We fundamentally have said, yes, we will comply with section 7.8. I don't know how more clearly we can say yes. When it comes down to demand, we were told repeatedly, demand is not supposed to be part of your calculus. Unfortunately, it continues to come up. So let's talk about demand. Let's talk about Perkins Loft. There's roughly, back of the envelope math, there's 230 units. It's a collection of studio apartments and 2 bedrooms. It's a total of roughly 340 beds. I guarantee I'm within plus or minus 10 to 15 bedrooms. How many students live in that building? There's 780. It's 100% double occupancy bedrooms. We have 465 bedrooms for 465 residents. We are providing an accommodation that is less expensive than the university and is on par with the stealth dormitories that do not comply with section 7.8 that the university is saying is okay for students to live in. The only reason I could come up with that the university is doing that is because they want to protect their profit center. And when I met with Marty Meehan this past Monday, last Monday of last week, it was very clear that was the situation. And it's unfortunate that if this doesn't get approved, this city, this neighborhood, and tangentially, the university all suffers. Not to mention the countless amount of money my company is out. We put our name and our reputation. We staked our survival for the next, I don't know how many years on this development. I don't like hearing we're deep-pocketed. I have young children. I got to pay my own mortgage. If this fails, we have a problem that we need to solve. I have to pay our investors back. It's disingenuous to say that we would let this turn into the animal house. We have a fiduciary responsibility. Mr. Frechette, you don't go and borrow tens of millions of dollars to build this and allow the inmates to run the asylum. It's unfair to categorize us with that and color us with that brush. Yes, I am passionate. You are hearing that right now. This is not, fly by night. We're not BlackRock. We don't have trillions of dollars under management. All right? Every single project we do, we personally invest in. Every single project we do has to survive. It's beautiful to do a development where I can get in a car and drive here. Yes, I am not a full-time citizen of Lowell. That doesn't mean I don't care about this city. All right? I'm a member of the Commonwealth. It's disingenuous for the director of Residence Life to say there is not another public-private partnership in a university in the state system. That's untrue. UMass Boston's under construction. UMass Dartmouth is seeking approval for one. UMass Amherst has an RFP publicly available to do a dormitory on South Campus right at the corner of University Drive and Amity. I know this. Oh, by the way, the Lowell 5 cent site, I personally reviewed that 5 times. I personally turned it down 5 times. Then Capstone came along. Then Capstone went to the university and asked for the university to sign a bond net lease. And the university turned it down. Capstone walked. Why did Capstone walk? Capstone walked because that location's terrible. All right? Why isn't Vision working? And I'm sorry for saying this because I should not talk about another private company. It's unfair. I wouldn't want somebody doing about that about myself. They don't have what modern students want. Modern students today want fall out of bed to campus, which we are. Your own transportation city engineer has opined on that. And they also want bed bath parity. They want their own private bedroom and their own private bathroom. They're spoiled. That's life. Now I ask you, if you can live in that accommodation for less expensive than living on campus and for the same price of living in a stealth dorm, would you do that? It's that simple. Yes, we're frustrated. We're frustrated because the facts are right there. We had a third-party consulting firm do an analysis. They have consulted at more than 700 university markets across the country. I think they know what they're talking about. So I apologize for being Italian and hot-blooded, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
No problem. No, you don't have to apologize, sir. I understand. You're vested in your property, you want to work hard, and you want to succeed. I get that.
Exactly.
That's why we all get upset at times. I understand that.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're just trying to determine what fits in the code and what doesn't. A lot of the stuff you speak about is outside the code. We got to stick within the book. As I told the union workers, we stick within the code.
And I hear you that, some things need to be adjusted. For instance, there's not a lighting plan. The landscaping plan doesn't necessarily match. I ask you, I appeal to you that make those conditions. If we want to table this until we have a fifth individual, if you want us to go back, reconsider, and come back, maybe with one-on-one meetings with you to discuss these further, we're willing to do all of this. The reality is the students need this, the university needs this, the city needs this. The university, it's very true, we see it across the country in almost every single market we're in. A student comes to campus to look at a prospective university. They themselves realize, or their parents realize, that at some point they will need to move off campus. They look at the current housing stock, and some students do make evaluations on the type of housing stock that is there. It's human nature. What is wrong with Lowell having modern-day Class A purpose-built student housing? Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. Board members have any further comments? Or? If not, what's the request of the board? We need 2 votes, one on special permit, I believe, and one on site plan.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion on the special permit first, I believe. Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to deny the project for the following reasons: that the applicant did not provide sufficient evidence that the project meets community need, that the applicant did not comply with 6.1.6 parking distance, 1,500 feet for required parking. The applicant did not provide visitor parking is called for in 11.3.2D, number 12. The applicant does not meet the minimum transportation plan requirement as set forth in 7.8.3, Section D. And that the proposal, the size, density, and mass of the proposal does not comply or does not meet the neighborhood character.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the motion is made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the motion for the special permit has been denied. Now we have a site plan.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to deny the site plan for following technical requirement of not providing a lighting plan, for inconsistency with the landscape plan to the architectural renderings, and that the required parking does not meet the minimum requirements under site plan review.
Do we have a motion for the site plan? Second by Mr. Snitsky to deny. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the motion to deny the site plan and the special permit have been denied. Thank you, everybody, for your input. It's been a very difficult night and a lot of presentation. Thank you very much for your concerns. I'd like to move along on the agenda, if we may. So there'll be people showing up at your house with a letter.
Okay.
I don't think we've done it enough. Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have other business. I'll go ahead to comments from any planning board members. Any board members have any comments from the boards they reside on? Anything from NEMCOG?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman. I know there's still some great debate regarding the Rourke Bridge, and hopefully I'll have some clarification on that. It seems to be some conflicting information as to whether there's going to be some funding available to take it to the next stage with the environmental review and the design stage. So stay tuned on that.
Stay tuned on that. Any of the board members have any updates on other businesses to consider? Anything from staff on other businesses?
We don't have anything scheduled for the next agenda. I'm not sure. I'll have to confirm tomorrow if the deadline has already passed for agenda items. But we don't have.
What we had? Was it Yeah.
Oh, the deadline. So that was for. So we don't have anything scheduled.
Okay. Let me know if anything comes up, because sometimes we might come in with a pre-app or something of that nature.
Mhm.
So if not, we can discuss that in the future. Yeah, click. I thought. No, just thinking of. Okay, so that'd be 2 weeks from tonight, right? Yeah. Be the 5th, so that'd be the 19th? Okay.
Correct.
Let us know about that. Board, any other further comments? If not, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair confirms. Good night, and thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.